Chapter 293. How to Face It. Anyway, Yin Chaozong and Chu Huanqi's plan against Qin Sheng had succeeded this time. Qin Sheng, Chao De, and the others were embarrassed. What made them even more helpless was that they did not know who their opponents were, which made them feel very aggrieved. Chu Huanqi and Yuan Ke didn't hate Qin Sheng. They just wanted to vent their anger and teach Qin Sheng a lesson, letting him know that Hangzhou was not a good place to live. Yuan Ke had scruples about Qin Sheng, so he didn't show up in public and let Chu Huanqi and Yin Chaozong deal with it. Both Chu Huanqi and Yin Chaozong had powerful backgrounds, so they could be unscrupulous. Even if they did something wrong, there would be someone to clean up their mess. However, Qin Haodong couldn't. At the critical moment, he would be used as cannon fodder. After all, Qin Sheng knew Shui Qin Yin and had a good relationship with Master Lu. As for Yin Chaozong, he was more shrewd than these people thought. Didn't he have scruples about Qin Sheng? Yes, because what happened on Mount Jiuhua became a mystery. No one knew what had happened on Earth. Qin Sheng, who was bound to die, escaped from death. Uncle Zhao and the others, who had the upper hand, were all defeated and disappeared in the end. After that, Qin Sheng disappeared for a full 10 months before he reappeared. There was no news at all. Not even a trace of him could be found. What on earth happened? After appearing in Hangzhou, how did Qin Sheng suddenly rise in just a few months? These were all Yin Chaozong's doubts. Therefore, to him, the plan against Qin Sheng this time was just a test. He wanted to see how capable Qin Sheng was and who was secretly helping him. He wanted to catch all of them in one fell swoop and would never give Qin Sheng another chance. Speaking of this, Yin Chaozong was a little conceited. He didn't think that the big man behind Qin Sheng might be someone he couldn't afford to offend, because he didn't think that Qin Sheng could know such a big man. Otherwise, Qin Sheng would have used him when he was in Shanghai, and he wouldn't have to hide his identity. What happened this time also verified Yin Chaozong's conjecture. There was no big shot at all. It was just that Qin Sheng was lucky. Secondly, he knew that Qin Sheng did not have much power in Hangzhou. Such a small thing could make him suffer like this. What about other things? In the end, which was also the most important thing, Lin Chang'e found him. Qin Sheng took the initiative to admit defeat. What else could they say? In these 2 days, Qin Sheng was basically busy with his own affairs. Lin Su was also busy with meeting and gathering with her friends. Those friends all wanted to see Qin Sheng, but Qin Sheng really had no time. Today, Lin Su called Qin Sheng to tell him that she had already chosen a house, which was located by the West Lake. It was a high-end property that was hard to come by. Of course, it was also ridiculously expensive. It had 3 bedrooms, 2 living rooms, 2 bathrooms, and more than 130 square meters. The total price would easily exceed 10 million. Lin Su roughly sent Qin Sheng the location, the information of the residential area, and the floor plan. He could tell that she liked it very much. She could overlook the scenery of West Lake from the balcony, so Qin Sheng directly decided to buy this apartment. The rest of the things were left to Lin Su. Lin Su, who specialized in finance, could handle these things easily. Qin Sheng did not need to worry about anything. Anyway, he did not need to pay. What was Qin Sheng busy doing? They were busy setting up a feast for Chang Baji and the others, who had stayed inside for 5 to 6 days. During this period of time, everyone had been extremely busy and their mental state was not very good. Taking advantage of this opportunity tonight, they were all happy. In addition to Chang Baji, Liu Yuan, Gu Xiaobo, Deputy General Manager Zhang, who was in charge of finance, and Sister Zhen, the public relations manager, a big sister who had been in this industry for many years, were also there. After dinner, Qin Sheng had asked Sister Zhen and Deputy General Manager Zhang to take a good rest at home. They could wait until Poly International opened again. At that time, they would naturally be informed. Qin Sheng and the others moved to another place. Poly International was closed, so they could only go to Yunding International. After all, Guanyin Live was being renovated. Qin Sheng, Chang Baji, Hao Lei, Song Wei, Liu Yuan, Gu Xiaobo, Gu Qingyang, and Tang Shi, who was recognized by Qin Sheng, gathered together. Of course, there were no hostesses or singers. Everyone just chatted and drank with light music. Qin Sheng picked up a glass of wine and said to Chang Baji and the others, "I'm sorry that you've been wronged this time. Everyone has worked hard during this period. No matter what, we've finally made it through. I'll drink this glass of wine." After Qin Sheng drank a glass of beer, the others all picked up their glasses and drank up. This was the first time that they had faced setbacks. Although there were all kinds of unsatisfactory things, at least the problem was solved. "Lao Chong, you guys could take a rest during this period. I plan to renovate and change the name of Poly International after a month, so as to avoid this period of time." Qin Sheng ordered in a low voice. He had already thought about the next plan. Chang Baji nodded silently and said, "I'll listen to you. This time, Brother Luo and Boss, who also made efforts. I'll invite them to dinner tomorrow. Lao Chong, you go with me," Qin Sheng said immediately. As for the other meaning, Chang Baji of course understood. Qin Sheng then ordered, "Brother Song, I'll leave Yunding to you and Hao Lei. Don't worry. If anything happens, I'll inform you." Now that Song Wei was firmly on Qin Sheng's side, of course, he would listen to Qin Sheng's orders. Lao Zhou had been abandoned by Chowda. He was just a professional manager. Liu Yuan, you take Tang Shi and Gu Xiaobo to stay in Poly International during this period. If there's anything, discuss with Lao Chong. Qin Sheng continued to make arrangements. Everything had been arranged properly. Next, it was time to drink. "Why do I feel that you have something on your mind?" Hao Lei, who was sitting next to Qin Sheng, suddenly asked. He had known Qin Sheng for so many years. Although he dare not say that he really knew Qin Sheng, he still knew some small details about Qin Sheng. For example, if there was something on his mind, he would be in a daze unconsciously. Qin Sheng shook his head and said, "Of course I have something on my mind. It's just that I'm too tired these days. I'm sorting out the cause and effect of this matter, summing up and reflecting on whether I have done something wrong. No one is perfect. We are still young, and the road is still long. Don't push yourself too hard," Hao Lei said kindly. Because since he followed Qin Sheng to Shanghai, he found that Qin Sheng would take everything on his shoulders at any time. Sometimes these things had nothing to do with him at all. However, he was such a person. Living like this, it seemed that he was carrying too many things on his shoulders and was too tired. "I know. Maybe I'm thinking too much," Qin Sheng said with a wry smile. He did have something on his mind. Because Yin Chaozong would be in Hangzhou tomorrow, Lin Chang'e had already told him that they would meet at noon the day after tomorrow. The location was to be decided by Yin Chaozong. So far, Qin Sheng had not told anyone about this, because he was afraid that Hao Lei or Chang Baji would be impulsive. Qin Sheng was a philosophy major. Hao Lei knew that Qin Sheng was smarter than him in doing things. He also knew how to adjust himself in time. He just cared about Qin Sheng as a friend. Han Bing's new company will open in 2 days. She wants us to attend the opening ceremony. You're busy these days, so I didn't tell you. She didn't want to disturb you, Hao Lei said thoughtfully. The relationship between Han Bing and Qin Sheng was very subtle. Since Han Bing came to Hangzhou, Qin Sheng had only seen her 3 times. Most of the time, he avoided her. After all, Han Bing was a woman. Besides, Lin Su was there, so she did not want to disturb Qin Sheng. She had to let Hao Lei pass the message. As for Han Bing, Hao Lei felt helpless and distressed. In his heart, Han Bing was a good girl. He and Han Bing had been together for the longest time. More or less, there was some love in his heart. But he knew Han Bing's feelings for Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng was also his brother. No matter what, he could only hide his feelings in his heart. Whether Han Bing would end up with Qin Sheng or not, he would not get between them. Just like he also liked Su Qin in the past. In the end, Qin Sheng and Su Qin got together, and he could only hide his feelings in silence. Until today, he had never expressed it. Some people could risk their lives and give up everything for love. But for Hao Lei, his parents and brothers were the most important. He would be at ease with the so-called love. The world was so big, and he would always meet a girl who liked him. When exactly, I'll ask someone to prepare a flower basket. Han Bing's company was opening. This was a more important thing. After all, he was Han Bing's good friend. Hao Lei replied, "Next Monday." "Okay, I got it. We'll go together then." Qin Sheng nodded. Hao Lei still had something to say, as if he was Qin Sheng's secretary. But many things could only be conveyed to Qin Sheng through him. It was really interesting. So he said directly, Su Qin will come to Hangzhou this weekend. She wants to see you. I'm just telling you. It's up to you whether you want to see her or not. Qin Sheng was slightly surprised. The wine glass that he was holding was also subconsciously stunned. Since they parted in Xian some time ago, Qin Sheng and Su Qin had not contacted each other. Su Qin also did not call or send Qin Sheng a message. Of course, Qin Sheng remembered the conversation with Su Qin's father, Su Yongxian, that night. As a father, of course, Su Yongxian wanted his daughter to be happy and get out of the previous predicament. But things like love were not something he could do as he pleased. So he asked Qin Sheng for help. Qin Sheng sighed. After all, Su Qin was the woman he used to love deeply. Although the past was like smoke and wind, there were still traces in his heart. He said helplessly, I'll call her and pick her up then. Okay. Hale was very satisfied with Qin Sheng's answer. If Qin Sheng was really so cruel, Hale would definitely be very disappointed. After all, Su Qin had left the best time of her life to Qin Sheng. Even if Qin Sheng had Lin Su now, he could not be so cruel to Su Qin. Qin Sheng did not talk about these annoying trivial things anymore. He also did not have the mood to think about these things in detail. At present, the most urgent thing for him was how to face Yin Chaozong and how to talk to him. What did Yin Chaozong prepare for them? Chapter 294. Back in Fourth Chu Huanqi was the little prince of the nightclub. Except for company affairs, he spent most of his time eating, drinking, and having fun. For him, there seemed to be nothing more to pursue in life except enjoyment. After all, his grandfather had reached the top, and he didn't think he could surpass his grandfather. He never cared what others thought of him. To him, being a prodigal, second-generation, hedonistic son of a rich family, etc., was just pure envy, jealousy, and hatred. If someone else was born into such a family, they would probably be worse than him. Unfortunately, most people didn't have this kind of life, but he was lucky. When he was born, he stood at a height that most people couldn't reach in their whole life. Moreover, most people in this world were ordinary people who couldn't stand on the stage at all. So, what should he do if he didn't enjoy it? Should he struggle hard? He just needed to keep his grandfather's resources. He thought he was very smart, not because he was conceited, but because it was true. He was very clear about how to behave and do things. However, he had to act like a playboy, which was a disguise and protection for himself. Otherwise, sometimes it was easy to get into danger. For Chu Huanqi, the Oriental Charm Bar on the opposite side and the Queen Bar on the other side were like going back home. Both of them belonged to the big shots on his side. When he came here, he was treated as a VIP, and he often went to these places. Today, he took some playboys to the Queen Bar to have fun for a while. The old master urged him to go home early, so Chu Huanqi left reluctantly. However, he had already hooked up with a Ritterni who went to the bar. Her figure was really magical, sexy, and tasty, which was exactly his type. Of course, he wouldn't miss it. However, he didn't expect to meet Qin Sheng, who had been taught a lesson by him these days, as soon as he came out. Of course, Chu Huanqi rushed over without saying anything. He liked to beat a drowning dog or hit a person when he was down. Otherwise, how could he find fun? Oh, who is this? Isn't this Boss Qin? I didn't expect to meet Boss Qin here. It's really a pleasure to meet you. Chu Huanqi was drunk and mocked Qin Sheng. Though the people around Chu Huanqi did not know Qin Sheng, judging from Chu Huanqi's attitude, they naturally knew that he was not on good terms with Chu Huanqi. Since Chu Huanqi dared to be so unscrupulous, he must have some scruples. Consequently, they naturally did not take Qin Sheng and his companions seriously and showed a disdainful look. Qin Sheng did not say anything. Gu Xiaobo, Gu Qingyang, and Tang Shi, who were behind him, took 2 steps forward subconsciously in order to avoid the unknown danger. They were doing this kind of dirty and tiring work. President Qin is really impressive. I remember that you were in the limelight in Boss, whose underground boxing field, and didn't give us any face. Why do you want to be in the limelight again today? Do you want to beat me? Chu Huanqi continued to provoke Gu Qingyang and Gu Xiaobo. Upon hearing this, several friends behind him directly went forward to push Gu Qingyang, Gu Xiaobo, and the others. Gu Qingyang and Tang Shi could bear it. After all, Qin Sheng did not say anything. Gu Xiaobo, who had a bad temper, was about to fight back. However, he was stopped by Hao Lei. Qin Sheng, who had been silent all the time, could do nothing but smile apologetically. After all, Chu Huanqi's grandfather was an old monk. Consequently, he said politely, "Oh, it turns out to be young Master Chu. Don't you have eyes? Don't you know who he is? This is our young Master Chu. Quickly admit your mistake." Gu Xiaobo was somewhat unhappy after hearing Qin Sheng's words. Since Qin Sheng had provoked him in such a way, why should he bear it? However, Qin Sheng was the boss. He could only admit his mistake obediently. "I'm sorry, young Master Chu. I didn't know it was you." Chu Huanqi waved his hands and laughed out loud as he said, "I don't have time to care about small fries like you." The group of people behind him also followed him to ridicule Qin Sheng. Gu Xiaobo's expression changed slightly. He clenched his fists and was ready to fight at any time. With his strength, he could defeat this group of good-for-nothings in front of him in 1 minute. He had never been bullied like this before. Qin Sheng smiled apologetically and said, "I'm sorry to disturb young Master Chu. If there's nothing else, we'll leave first. I hope young Master Chu will have a good time tonight." "Tut, tut, tut. What's the matter? You can't stand it anymore and want to leave now." Chu Huanqi did not want to let Qin Sheng off. He said, "I heard that Boss Qin has not been very peaceful recently. It seems that your Poly International has been closed down. Everyone already knows that. Boss Qin, did you provoke the wrong people? Nowadays, the situation in Hangzhou is very complicated. Let me give you a piece of advice. As a newcomer, you'd better be careful. You'd better keep your tail between your legs. Otherwise, you will suffer great losses." Chu Huanqi's words seemed to make Qin Sheng understand something. Could it be that the old monk was really behind this? Qin Sheng smiled calmly and said, "Thank you for your reminder, young Master Chu. Come on, let's go. I thought you were a powerful man who didn't even give us face. It turns out that you were just SOSO." Chu Huanqi laughed out loud. Then he shouted at the group of people behind him. This group of scoundrel friends also laughed at the group of men in front of them unscrupulously. They looked tall and strong, but they were just a group of cowards. Qin Sheng still had a smile on his face, but his eyes were somewhat vicious. Anyone who was ridiculed like this would be angry. However, Qin Sheng really did not dare to turn against them. This kind of price would be too high. Now, he could not wait for this god of plagues to leave as soon as possible. Chu Huanqi was about to leave with his scoundrel friends. However, it seemed that he thought of something. He turned back and walked to Qin Sheng. He lowered his head and whispered in Qin Sheng's ear, "Don't think that I don't know what you have done in the past. If you're sensible, you should keep a low profile in Hangzhou. Otherwise, you may regret it." Qin Sheng was stunned. Then he immediately smiled and said, "Yes, yes, yes." After humiliating Qin Sheng for a while, Chu Huanqi finally vented his resentment. What happened in the underground boxing field last time had been bothering him. He had always been in the limelight. How could he be willing to see others steal his limelight? Today, he finally got what he wanted. Alas, cowards. With a sneer, Chu Huanqi left with his scoundrel friends with satisfaction. Only their wild laughter was left. After Chu Huanqi left, Qin Sheng stopped smiling. During the whole process, Qin Sheng lowered his head and behaved himself. The people behind him only dared to be angry, but did not dare to say anything. Finally, Gu Xiaobo could not help saying, "Brother Qin, as long as you say it, I will do it. I will absolutely not involve you." "Xiaobo, you are presumptuous." Chang Baji was a little annoyed. He knew Gu Xiaobo's temper. However, what he said at this time was equal to adding fuel to the fire and slapping Qin Sheng's face. Hearing his senior uncle was angry, Gu Xiaobo hurriedly lowered his head and did not dare to say anything. He was not afraid of anyone except his senior uncle, no matter in terms of seniority or strength. "Lao Chang, it's okay." Qin Sheng turned back and smiled at Chang Baji. Then he patted Gu Xiaobo's shoulder and said, "This is not the era of fighting and killing. If we really want to kill him, any one of us can do it. But what should we do next? Who will clean up the mess? You can look down on him, but you can never ignore his grandfather. At that time, we, who have made great efforts to take root in Hangzhou, will have to flee in embarrassment. If we are lucky, After a few years, the storm will be over and we can continue to live. If we are unlucky, we will probably have to flee for the rest of our lives. Brother Qin, I was wrong. Although Gu Xiaobo was very unwilling, he still lowered his head and admitted his mistake. Qin Sheng shook his head and said, "Who wants to be a grandson? Who doesn't want to be a big boss? Xiaobo, you and Qingyang have just entered the society. When you are familiar with the survival rules and game rules of the society, you will understand that many things are not so simple." Gu Xiaobo looked at Gu Qingyang, who had been calm all the time. He knew that he had lost some points today. He helplessly sighed. "Let's go." Qin Sheng chuckled and said. They drove away separately. As usual, Gu Qingyang drove Qin Sheng back first and then left. He would come on time tomorrow morning. The next evening, Qin Sheng, who had made an appointment with Boss Hu and Brother Luo in advance, arrived at the restaurant early. Of course, Chang Baji also came. Yang Deng had something to do today, so he did not come. This time, he had made a lot of efforts. After waiting for a long time, the two tycoons walked into the restaurant one after another. Qin Sheng and Chang Baji stood up in a hurry and greeted them. After that, they exchanged greetings with each other. After all the dishes and drinks were served, Qin Sheng said half-jokingly, "Brothers, I've lost face this time. Thank you so much for your help. Lao Chang and I propose a toast to you." Qin Sheng smiled. After Qin Sheng finished speaking, he and Lao Chang picked up their wine glasses and drank up. Boss Hu and Brother Luo looked at each other and drank up the wine in their glasses with a smile. "Haven't you figured out what's going on?" Brother Luo was more or less on Qin Sheng's side. Qin Sheng shook his head and said, "The relationship behind is complicated. I guess the other party is on guard. Anyway, the problem has been solved, and we do not intend to pursue it. If the other party still wants to kill us, they will definitely have other plans. At that time, we will naturally know." Qin Sheng really did not intend to make trouble. After all, he could not owe too many favors for this matter. After the accident, Xue Qingyan called him to ask if he needed help. Qin Sheng also refused. He did not bother Fong Jianping again. As for Master Lu, he did not ask about it at all. Boss Hu appreciated him very much. "You did the right thing. You turned a big problem into a small one." Brother Hu, now Poly International is also closed. Lao Chang said that he has nothing to do these days and wants to find a place to calm down. "I think your training base is quite good." Qin Sheng took the initiative to lead the topic. Before eating, he had discussed it with Lao Chang, and Lao Chang had no objection. Boss Hu's eyes suddenly brightened. It seemed that his effort this time was right. He smiled in a hurry and said, "Of course, I welcome you with both hands. I'm afraid that Lao Chang will look down on my useless subordinates." Lao Chang shook his head and said, "Boss Hu, you are too polite." Brother Luo took the opportunity and said, "Lao Hu, how many people did I throw in there? You don't have to ask, do you?" Boss Hu laughed out loud and said, "You are too polite." Brother Luo looked at Lao Chang and Qin Sheng and said, "Lao Chang, don't spoil my bastards. Deal with them in any way. If they dare to resist, I will teach them a lesson later." Everyone burst into laughter at the same time. Favors were always reciprocated. Since Lao Chang had made efforts, Qin Sheng certainly had to return the favor. Lao Chang also understood this. Chapter 295. Be prepared with both hands. Boss who might not think highly of Qin Sheng, but he definitely appreciated Chang Baji. After all, he was a soldier and liked martial artists with extraordinary skills. As a result, he thought highly of Chang Baji. As for Qin Sheng, he also loved him because of Chang Baji. After all, Qin Sheng had benefited a lot from Chang Baji. As for Brother Luo, of course, he liked Qin Sheng more. Qin Sheng was a rare young man. With limited resources, Qin Sheng had achieved so much in such a short time. Not everyone could do this. Perhaps because Qin Sheng did not have many resources now, he could not stand at a certain height. However, Qin Sheng was young enough. As long as he was given time, he would definitely stand at the top of the pyramid. Brother Luo couldn't help but think of what he was doing when he was 28 years old. He was still fighting and killing with others. Times had really changed. In the future, it would be the world of these young people. Who was Qin Sheng going to meet? He was going to meet Yin Chaozong tomorrow. Lin Changhe, who was the middleman, had arrived in Hangzhou in the evening. Yin Chaozong must have arrived in Hangzhou today. Qin Sheng had to meet Lin Changhe at this time. Gu Qingyang was still driving. He had become Qin Sheng's full-time chauffeur. Chang Baji sat in the front passenger seat, while Qin Sheng sat in the back. He rolled down the window and lit a cigarette. After taking 2 puffs, he said, "Lao Chang, I have to tell you something. Don't blame me. I have no other choice." "What is it?" Of course, Chang Baji could feel that there was something wrong with Qin Sheng recently. Just as how Lei thought, Chang Baji thought that Qin Sheng was under too much pressure because of what happened recently. But obviously, it was not the case now. Qin Sheng sighed and said, "I choose to admit my cowardice to Yin Chaozong. He's in Hangzhou now." Gu Qingyang did not know who Yin Chaozong was. However, Chang Baji knew clearly that Yin Chaozong was Qin Sheng's mortal enemy, the culprit who had almost killed Qin Sheng. Some time ago, Qin Sheng had already told him that Yin Chaozong already knew that they were in Hangzhou and might take action against them at any time. Chang Baji had felt the pressure from Qin Sheng. They had also thought of countermeasures. However, they did not expect that Qin Sheng would make such a choice in the end. Was this really Qin Sheng? Why? Chang Baji asked. Given Qin Sheng's character, he would rather die in glory than live in dishonor. Why did he lower his head and admit defeat now? Qin Sheng took a drag on his cigarette and explained, "The Lin family's attitude towards me has loosened up. As long as I admit defeat to Yin Chaozong and he forgives me, they will acknowledge me." Just because of this, Chang Baji shook his head. Chang Baji was not an ordinary person. He could not be fooled easily. Consequently, Qin Sheng continued, "What happened this time also made me realize that our foundation in Hangzhou is too shallow. If the Yin family really makes a move, to be honest, we won't be able to hold them off." Could it be that he had to continue drifting? Leave Hangzhou and change to another place? "Old Chang, I'm already 28 years old. I can't afford to go through so much trouble. Besides, I still have you guys. I don't want to disappoint you. And Lin Su, I can't take her with me for the rest of her life, right?" Chang Baji knew that since Qin Sheng had made up his mind, nothing he said would change his mind. He could tell Qin Sheng that he could let go of everything in front of him. But what about Qin Sheng and the others? He could let it go because he was already in his 40s. He didn't have many pursuits in life, so he could just go with the flow. However, with the temperament of these young people, it was impossible for them to bear it. So he understood. "Well, I won't persuade you. But I want to know, will Yin Chaozong really forgive you so easily? Have you ever thought about the price you will have to pay?" Chang Baji went straight to the point without any long-winded words. Although he was not in Qin Sheng's position, he understood Qin Sheng's situation. In this F***-kept-up society, the weak were prey to the strong. If one did not admit defeat, he would only die miserably. Just like what Qin Sheng had said to Gu Xiaobo yesterday. Who would be willing to be a grandson? Qin Sheng threw the cigarette, but out of the car window, without any manners. Look, he was not a perfect person. Sometimes, he was just like most ordinary people. He rolled up the car window. It was raining outside again. The autumn rain was endless. This season of the year was the most embarrassing. Qin Sheng sighed and said, "I don't know. Of course, I'm not a reckless person. If the price is really beyond my range, I will definitely refuse. So let's see him first." Now, Chang Baji nodded silently. It seemed that Qin Sheng had a sense of propriety. Qin Sheng shook his head and said, "No, I'm going to see Lin Su's second uncle now." Half an hour later, Gu Qingyang drove the car to the place that Lin Changhe had agreed to meet. It was a tea house located near Wulin, the number 1. Lin Changhe's home in Hangzhou was Wulin the number 1, which was the most famous mansion in Hangzhou. Many influential people in Zhejiang had bought houses here. It was said that the cheapest one was at least 30 or 40 million yuan. Lin Changhe had arrived in advance. He made a pot of oolong tea and waited for Qin Sheng and Chang Baji. The waiter led Qin Sheng and Chang Baji into the box. Lin Changhe did not stand up. He just smiled and said, "I thought you would not come." Qin Sheng said calmly, "Since I've already agreed, I don't intend to turn back." Lin Changhe smiled and said, "That's right. Not every young man can be as bold as you. Qin Sheng, you really don't let me down. I appreciate you more and more now. A man should have several ups and downs in his life. I believe that you will definitely go far in the future. Maybe the Lin family will rely on you in the future. Lin Zhe can't be counted on. Lin Changhe praised Qin Sheng so much. Maybe it was because Qin Sheng was going to face Yin Chaozong tomorrow and wanted to comfort him psychologically. Consequently, Qin Sheng did not take Lin Changhe's words seriously. He chuckled and said, "Second uncle, I have some self-awareness. At least, no matter what, the Lin family will choose Yin Chaozong, not me, no matter what." Sit down and talk," Lin Changhe said to Qin Sheng and Chang Baji with a bitter smile. Then he poured a cup of tea for them. Lin Changhe opened his mouth again and said, "Yin Chaozong is already in Hangzhou. He lives in Amman, Fayun. We will meet at the Lingyin Temple tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'll send someone to pick you up, or do you want to go there directly?" The Lingyin Temple? Qin Sheng frowned and said. He did not expect that Yin Chaozong would arrange to meet him at the Lingyin Temple. It was interesting. After coming to his senses, Qin Sheng shook his head and said, "No need. I will go there directly tomorrow. Let's meet at the gate of the Lingyin Temple. Don't take too many people with you. Don't worry. He won't do anything stupid with me here. Moreover, it is a peaceful place of Buddhism," Lin Changhe reminded Qin Sheng. At this moment, he had to be humble and show his sincerity to Yin Chaozong. Maybe then he would not make things difficult for Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng looked at Chang Baji and said confidently, "I will only take Lao Chang with me." Did he trust Lin Changhe? Of course not. Even if he trusted Lin Changhe, he would not trust Yin Chaozong. Therefore, he had to take Lao Chang with him. As long as Lao Chang was there, nothing else mattered. This was the deterrent power. Lin Changhe looked at the middle-aged man in front of him, who was not good-looking but had a strong, killing intent. He should not be an ordinary person. It seemed that he had followed Qin Sheng in Shanghai and should be Qin Sheng's trusted subordinate. That's good. Lin Changhe felt relieved. Qin Sheng frowned and asked, "Second uncle, do you think Yin Chaozong will really let me go?" Lin Changhe's expression changed slightly. To be honest, he was not sure. If Yin Chaozong did not intend to forgive Qin Sheng, it would be difficult. According to Yin Chaozong's character, he would definitely cut the weeds and dig up the roots. The Yin family had always done things in this way. Lin Changhe smiled bitterly and said, "I don't know. You could talk about it at that time. I won't be involved." He just offered a chance, whether it could be settled or not depended on how the two young people talked. Qin Sheng smiled knowingly and stood up happily. "Second uncle, I will go back first. See you tomorrow." Qin Sheng and Chang Baji said goodbye and did not stay for long. Lin Changhe was thinking about what kind of excessive conditions Yin Chaozong would put forward. After leaving the tea house and getting in the car, Chang Baji said casually, "Qin Sheng, you have to be prepared for the worst. If Yin Chaozong does not forgive you or pays a price that is beyond what you can bear, we have to be prepared to face him." Qin Sheng nodded and said, "Okay, I got it." When Qin Sheng went back to the Golden Coast, he saw a guest in his house. It was Lin Su's younger sister, Lin Yu. The two women were wearing pajamas, sitting cross-legged on the sofa, watching TV and chatting. Their postures were really attractive, which made Qin Sheng feast his eyes. Seeing Qin Sheng coming in, Lin Yu hurriedly stood up and greeted him. "Hello, brother-in-law." Qin Sheng smiled politely and said, "No wonder your sister likes you so much. You are so sweet. Is my mouth as sweet as brother-in-law's? My sister praised you a lot just now. It is the first time for me to hear her praise a man like that. Brother-in-law, did you save the world in your previous life and find a wife like my sister?" Lin Yu, who was mischievous, said with a smile. Qin Sheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. At this time, Lin Su explained, "This girl just arrived in Hangzhou last night. She insisted on sleeping with me tonight. She said that we haven't seen each other for a long time, and there are too many things she wants to talk to me about." Qin Sheng said casually, "You two sisters, I really haven't seen you for a long time. I will sleep in the study tonight to make room for you." Lin Yu said happily, "Brother-in-law, you don't mind if I borrow your wife for one night?" Qin Sheng smiled and said, "No, I don't mind." After chatting with Lin Su and Lin Yu for a while, Qin Sheng took a shower and went back to the study to sleep. Lin Su had already prepared a quilt for him. After Qin Sheng came in, Lin Su said with a serious face, "Hello, uncle." Qin Sheng nodded and said, "Okay." Lin Su took the initiative to ask when. Qin Sheng said honestly, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning at the Lingyin Temple. Lin Su gritted her teeth and said, "I will go with you." Qin Sheng shook his head and said, "You don't have to go. I will ask Lao Chan to go with me. Stay at home and wait for my news. I want to eat squirrel mandarin fish at noon." Lin Su gently hugged Qin Sheng and said, "Okay, I will make it for you." She followed Qin Sheng's arrangement and did not have any objection. It was a silent night. At dawn, Qin Sheng set off for the Lingyin Temple. Chapter 296. Obedience is better than politeness. The updates are not very stable recently because I am renovating my new house. Since I'm a single dog that's about to enter my 30s, I have to do everything by myself. No one can help me, and I don't like trouble anyway, so I've been as busy as a dog recently. Every day, I run around to keep an eye on things, and I can only write at night. I hope everyone can understand how difficult it is for a single dog like me. As for the plot, the last big climax of the first million words is coming. Please look forward to it. In the middle of October, a cold air from the north hit Hangzhou. Compared with this time in previous years, Hangzhou got cold earlier this year, and there was continuous autumn rain. After the autumn rain and the cold, Hangzhou, which had just passed the National Day Golden Week, was a bit bleak, as if it was lonely after a party. When Qin Sheng got up, Lin Su was already up. Lin Yu was still sleeping soundly in the master bedroom. Born in a family like the Lin family, Lin Yu rarely had troubles. At least she did not have to worry about life. Lin Su had cooked porridge and 2 steamed buns. There was a plate of pickled vegetables and Qin Sheng's favorite oiled chili on the table. Seeing Qin Sheng coming out of the study, Lin Su, who was wearing pajamas and had messy hair, said softly, "Eat something before you go." Qin Sheng, who was already dressed neatly, walked over and gently combed Lin Su's hair. Then he sat down and ate the steamed buns and drank the porridge without saying a word. He always did not like to talk when he was eating. Qin Sheng did not speak, neither did Lin Su. She just quietly watched Qin Sheng eat. A few minutes later, Qin Sheng finished a bowl of porridge and 2 steamed buns. He wiped his mouth with a tissue and stood up to go out. Lin Su handed the umbrella to Qin Sheng and said, "It's raining outside. Take the umbrella." Qin Sheng nodded and was about to go out. He seemed to think of something and turned back to kiss Lin Su's forehead gently. Lin Su smiled and said, "I will wait for you to come back." The autumn rain was pattering outside. There was no passerby in the community. Qin Sheng's figure looked a little lonely. Most people were still in the dream at this time, but Qin Sheng had to face the enemy that he did not want to face. When Qin Sheng arrived at the gate of the community, Chang Baji was already waiting for him there. He got in the car, closed the umbrella, and closed the door. Qin Sheng picked up his phone and began to look at the unread messages in WeChat. There were messages from everyone, but Qin Sheng did not reply to any of them. Then, he opened the app and began to read the news. It seemed to be similar to his daily routine at work. He did not feel anything strange. Half an hour later, they arrived at the Lingyin Temple. Chang Baji found a place to park the car. The two of them walked toward the main entrance of the Lingyin Temple with black umbrellas in their hands. Lin Changha had sent a text message to Chang Baji on the way, saying that he would wait for them at the main entrance. The Lingyin Temple opened its gate at 7 o'clock. In the past, there would have been many tourists burning incense and worshiping Buddha. However, the weather was not good today, so there were not many tourists. There were only a few devout monks. At the entrance of the Lingyin Temple, Lin Changha, who was dressed in a black coat, had been waiting for a long time, followed by 2 bodyguards. The 3 of them happened to be holding black umbrellas, which made them look like gangsters meeting or doing business. After seeing Lin Changha, Qin Sheng asked in a low voice, "Second uncle, has he arrived already?" Today, Qin Sheng looked very serious, and his eyes were full of indifference. Lin Changhe said in a low voice. He's already waiting for you inside. Then let's go, Qin Sheng said. Lin Changhe and Qin Sheng walked in the front, while Chang Baji and the two bodyguards followed them separately. At the gate of the Lingyin Temple, Qin Sheng looked up at the three big characters of the Lingyin Temple on the golden board and smiled unnaturally. It seemed that everyone in a high position liked to inscribe words. Lin Changhe had arranged everything, so they directly entered the Lingyin Temple and went straight to the place where Yin Chaozong was. This was not the first time that Qin Sheng had come to the Lingyin Temple. No matter whether it was a blessed land of Taoism or a famous mountain of Buddhism, Qin Sheng would definitely pay his respects to the top of the mountain every time he came to a place. Therefore, he had been to the Lingyin Temple several times. However, except for the first time, he just wandered around casually. In the Mahavira Hall of the Lingyin Temple, Yin Chaozong, who was dressed casually, was discussing the Dharma with a master. Although Yin Chaozong was a rich playboy, he was not an ignorant wastrel. He was proficient in many kinds of knowledge. Although he was not erudite and knowledgeable, he had dabbled in many things and was multi-talented. Otherwise, how could he be appointed as the future successor of the Yin family by old Master Yin? At the foot of the steps outside the Mahavira Hall, Feng He, who was wearing a black leather jacket, was waiting for Yin Chaozong with an umbrella. Or maybe he was waiting for Qin Sheng's arrival. After so many days, how would he feel? When Lin Changhe and Qin Sheng walked in front of Feng He stretched out his hand and blocked their way. Lin Changhe was a little angry. As an elder of the Lin family, even the servants of the Yin family were so arrogant. Qin Sheng did not care. He just looked at this ruthless person who had chased him all the way to western Sichuan and wanted to kill him. Unfortunately, they had paid a heavy price in the end. Feng He stared at Qin Sheng with his vicious eyes and sneered, "I didn't expect that you could still be alive." Qin Sheng shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Do you want me to die so much?" Feng He replied straightforwardly, "Anyone who does harm to the Yin family is my enemy." The two of them met each other not because they were old friends, but because they were enemies. Therefore, they did not exchange pleasantries and only talked to each other straightforwardly. Originally, Qin Sheng wanted to refute, but he thought that Feng He was useless and did not have the strength to kill him. In the end, he gave up. Today, he was here to admit his cowardice and be a grandson. There was no need to haggle with the dog. Therefore, he just smiled bitterly and did not say anything. Chang Baji stared at Feng He as if he was looking at a clown. To him, Feng He was just a defeated opponent. If one day Qin Sheng had the strength to fight with Yin Chaozong, Feng He would definitely be his first prey. However, when Feng He saw Chang Baji, he did not dare to look down on him at all. He knew that Chang Baji was a real big shot. It was completely because of his protection that Qin Sheng could live to this day. Otherwise, they would not have lured the tiger away from the mountain and then dared to kill Qin Sheng. Unfortunately, Uncle Zhao and his gang were not lucky. "Go ahead. I'll wait for you here." As an elder of the Lin family, Lin Changhe had enough confidence to face Qin Sheng and Yin Chaozong. He could be polite to them, but you could not ignore him. Yin Chaozong pretended to be like this. If it was only Qin Sheng, it would not matter. But now that he was here, he was somewhat angry, so he directly ordered. Qin Sheng nodded silently and was ready to go to the Mahavira Hall. Feng He stopped him again and said, "Young master asked you to wait here." Lin Changhe was annoyed and said, "Who do you think you are? How dare you point your fingers here?" When Lin Changhe got angry, Feng He did not dare to say anything. He did not dare to show off in front of the second master of the Lin family. At that time, even the young master could not protect him. Therefore, he could only step back obediently. It was true that Lin Changhe bullied the weak and feared the strong. Qin Sheng finally vented his anger and walked slowly to the Mahavira Hall. Yin Chaozong, who was in the Mahavira Hall, did not notice the movement outside at first. It was not until he heard the noise that he saw Lin Changhe and Qin Sheng had arrived. Qin Sheng was already walking towards him. Yin Chaozong smiled at the master in front of him and said, "An old friend has come to visit. I won't bother you today. I'll come again another day." Ba. Benefactor, please go ahead. The master, with an extraordinary bearing, smiled happily. Yin Xiaozong then stood up and walked out of the hall unhurriedly. He stared at Qin Sheng with a slightly sarcastic smile, as if he was the winner. Qin Sheng, who was at the bottom of the stairs, also saw Yin Xiaozong. He stopped subconsciously and looked calm. He just faced Yin Xiaozong and tried not to let Yin Xiaozong notice his subtle reaction. They were old friends, rivals in love, and enemies. One was on the stairs, and the other was at the bottom. They just looked at each other, which seemed to reflect their current situation. However, no matter whether it was Qin Sheng or Yin Xiaozong, they had won or lost many times. Qin Sheng lost his future and won Lin Su. Yin Xiaozong lost Lin Su and crushed Qin Sheng. In the end, standing on the stairs, Yin Xiaozong took the initiative to say, "The fast noodles in Shifeng Garden taste good. I eat a bowl every time I come here. Do you want to have a try?" Yin Xiaozong's attitude surprised Qin Sheng a little. He even took the initiative to invite him to eat fast noodles. However, it was a good beginning after all. Even though Qin Sheng had eaten breakfast, he had to show respect to Yin Xiaozong. So he said in a low voice, "I'll do as you say." Yin Xiaozong smiled with a complicated expression. Then he walked in the direction of Shifeng Garden. When he passed by Qin Sheng, he did not look at him at all. Qin Sheng followed him resentfully. On the other side, Feng He and Chang Baji subconsciously wanted to follow him. However, Yin Xiaozong took the lead and waved his hand without looking back. Feng He immediately understood what was going on and did not follow him. Qin Sheng turned to look at Chang Baji and nodded. Then Chang Baji did not follow him. Lin Changhe said casually, "This is their business. Let them solve it." He believed that Yin Xiaozong was not so narrow-minded and would not mess around in this place. Lin Changhe had done what he should do. The rest depended on Qin Sheng. Consequently, he did not intend to stay here anymore. He planned to ask for a cup of tea from a master who was familiar with him in the Lingyin Temple. As a result, only Chang Baji and Feng He were left here. Feng He stared at Chang Baji and said respectfully and provocatively, "If there is a chance, I would like to learn from you again." Chang Baji said in a tone that was neither light nor heavy, "I have never spared a person twice." His words were a little heavy and full of killing intent. Feng He was not angry at all. He sneered and said, "Senior, are you so confident? If you don't believe me, you can have a try any time. I will wait." Chang Baji did not bother to pay attention to this loser and walked in the direction of Shifeng Garden. Of course, he would not disturb the detailed conversation between Qin Sheng and Yin Xiaozong. However, the closer he was to Qin Sheng, the farther away the danger was from Qin Sheng. Shifeng Garden, which was a restaurant for outsiders in the Lingyin Temple, had always been famous for its vegetarian dishes. In particular, it was famous for its fast noodles. Many tourists and pilgrims who came here would taste a bowl of fast noodles after offering incense. In the past, every time Yin Xiaozong accompanied the seniors and his family to the Lingyin Temple, he would eat a bowl of fast noodles. This habit had been maintained. At this moment, there were not many guests in Shifeng Garden. Qin Sheng and Yin Xiaozong sat opposite to each other by the door. Although the fast noodles had not been served, there was an undercurrent. Chapter 297. Naked Humiliation. Most of the people in this world were hypocritical because this society was hypocritical. Everyone had to adapt to the rules of survival in this society and eventually put on a mask for themselves. You are upright, you have a temperament, but they say that you are ignorant of the ways of the world and do not know how to be tactful. Hence, Yin Xiaozong was also a hypocrite. The polite look he put on just now was just for the outsiders to see. He and Qin Sheng were already in a situation where one of them had to die. How could he be polite? Lin Changhe and his master Shifu were present, so he had to put on an act. At this moment, in Shifeng Garden, the two of them did not even order the fast noodles. They just sat there and confronted each other. Yin Xiaozong's face was very gloomy. He stared at Qin Sheng with a faint smile. Qin Sheng was still unmoved and faced him calmly. "You really dare to come? Aren't you afraid that I will set another trap for you?" Yin Xiaozong smiled disdainfully. Qin Sheng said calmly, "If I say I'm not afraid, Even I don't believe it. But if I don't come, will you let me go? I almost killed you once. I let you hide for more than half a year, and you actually lowered your head and apologized to me. Don't you have a lot of backbone? Why are you scared now? Yin Chaozong sneered. He was a little unbridled and did not fear anything. Qin Sheng sighed and said, I'm just an ordinary poor loser. You're the successor of the Yin family, who has a lot of power and influence. No matter where I hide, you'll have a way to find me and deal with me. You'll trample me under your feet ruthlessly, unless I live a life of hiding all the time. But I don't want to live like this. Now that you already know that I'm in Hangzhou, it's obviously impossible for me to live a peaceful life again. Instead of being on tenterhooks, I'd better take the initiative to lower my head. Hee hee, you're pretty good at talking. You make it sound like I'm an unpardonably evil person. You're an innocent young man, but is that really the reason why you're afraid? Of course, Yin Chaozong would not believe Qin Sheng's words. Although there was nothing wrong with what Qin Sheng said, in his heart, Qin Sheng was a shrewd person. He just knew how to hide it. Qin Sheng said half-truthfully, not entirely. Then go on. If you can convince me, we can continue to talk. If you can't convince me, I can't guarantee what I will do in Hangzhou after we leave Shifeng Garden. Yin Chaozong said confidently, as if he was teasing his prey. He did not care about Qin Sheng's feelings at all. If I was alone, as you said, I would definitely not lower my head. I would rather die standing than live kneeling. However, people have to be realistic after all. I am not alone, so I have no choice but to do so, Qin Sheng said as he straightened his back. He was indeed such a person. However, when it came to people like Yin Chaozong who were more suspicious, this was a kind of trick. Yin Chaozong's expression softened a little after hearing that. However, he found it funny and said, just as you said, you had no choice or I forced you to lower your head to me. But before that, I want to ask you a question that I can't figure out. Qin Sheng knew what Yin Chaozong wanted to ask, and he had already thought of a solution. Yin Chaozong said directly, that time on Mount Jiuhua, I took everything into account. How on earth did you escape by chance? Are my subordinates dead or alive? Qin Sheng squinted and replied, you set up a trap. Did I really not notice it at all? Yi Miang is a rich playboy. How could he call me brother? There must be something wrong when things are abnormal. I just beat him at his own game. When I went to Mount Jiuhua, I had already arranged a backup plan. It was just that the timing was wrong. I didn't expect that the killer you hired would be so powerful. I almost lost my life. Okay, I got it. Now I want to know more. How can you make me forgive you? Yin Chaozong looked calm. It was hard to tell whether he believed Qin Sheng or not. He chuckled and said, how can you forgive me? Qin Sheng asked back. He gave the initiative to Yin Chaozong. In this kind of thing, it was not good for him to take the initiative. If he made Yin Chaozong unhappy, then this thing would be over. Yin Chaozong said very seriously, I don't lack money. Neither do you. Power is out of your reach. Background, resources, you don't have them. You have nothing. How can I forgive you? Oh, it seems that you could do one thing. As long as you give Lin Su to me, I will definitely forgive you. All the grievances between us will be written off. Humiliation. This was a blatant humiliation to Qin Sheng. At the beginning, it was a personal attack. Qin Sheng could still accept it. But at the end, it was like rubbing Qin Sheng's face on the ground. Qin Sheng restrained his anger and snorted. Apart from this, do you have any other choice? No. Yin Chaozong replied directly without any hesitation. Qin Sheng also refused directly. It seems that I was wrong to come here today. If you want to forgive me in this way, I can only fight with you to the end. I would rather give up everything. Ha ha ha. Qin Sheng, are you kidding me? Give up everything? What do you have? What do you have to play with me? Let me tell you, if I want to kill you, it's a piece of cake. Just watch how I kill you. Since you don't believe in my strength, let me tell you one thing. Do you know why Poly International was closed down? Qin Sheng was about to fall out with him. Yin Chaozong did not need to pretend. He directly fell out with him. Hearing the last sentence, Qin Sheng's face changed instantly. He really did not expect this. He did not expect that Yin Chaozong was the mastermind behind the incident at Poly International. Lin Su actually got it right that day. This news made Qin Sheng a little surprised. He felt even more guilty because he had implicated Chowda. For a moment, Qin Sheng felt that he was a jinx. He had just returned to Shanghai and met Han Guoping, but Han Guoping committed suicide. Later, he followed Jiang Xianbang. Jiang Xianbang had an accident and had to go abroad to seek refuge. Now that he had finally come to Hangzhou and Chowda gave him a platform, he had to implicate Chowda again. This made Qin Sheng feel very uncomfortable. He stared at Yin Chaozong angrily, as if he had the intention to kill Yin Chaozong. With his skills, if he could not control his impulse at this time, he could definitely kill Yin Chaozong on the spot. However, Qin Sheng really did not dare to act wildly in the peaceful land of Buddhism. Even if he killed Yin Chaozong, the Yin family's revenge would come one after another, and he would not be able to escape death. At that time, what would Lin Su do? What about the others? Therefore, Qin Sheng could only bear it. He had to bear it. Qin Sheng gritted his teeth and replied, "I did not expect it to be you." Yin Chaozong laughed out loud and said, "There are many things that you did not expect." Qin Sheng finally understood that Yin Chaozong did not intend to forgive him. Today, he just wanted to humiliate him. Even if he kneeled down and licked his boots, Yin Chaozong would not let him go. Therefore, Qin Sheng did not intend to beg for mercy. He still had this bit of backbone. Therefore, he said, "Sorry to disturb you, young Master Yin. I will leave first. I will not accompany you to eat a bowl of fast noodles. You are already flustered and exasperated. You can't even stand this little grievance. You still want me to forgive you?" Yin Chaozong said disapprovingly. Today's meeting with Qin Sheng made him even more sure in his heart that he would definitely not let Qin Sheng go. Now it was no longer because of Lin Su, but because of the grudge between him and Qin Sheng. If he did not eliminate the root of the problem, sooner or later, Qin Sheng would take revenge on him. Qin Sheng, who had already stood up, smiled bitterly and said, "Young Master Yin, you do not want to forgive me. You are just humiliating me. You wanted to give up Lin Su? I can't do it. I know you can't do it. Ha 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 ha. I was just joking. Besides, do you think I will still want a woman like Lin Su? I, Yin Chaozong, can find any woman?" Yin Chaozong sneered. His words humiliated Lin Su again. Qin Sheng clenched his fists tightly. Yin Chaozong could humiliate him, but if he targeted Lin Su, he really could not bear it. A real man must protect his woman. Whether he could do it or not, he had to do it. What? You can't stand it anymore? Yin Chaozong sneered again. This feeling of playing with his opponent made him very happy. He liked to see Qin Sheng's flustered and exasperated look. Qin Sheng's mouth twitched a little, but he finally held it back again. "If you want me to forgive you, you can. I will pick a time and a place. You kneel down, count out to me 3 times, and call me young Master Yin. I know I am wrong, and I beg you to forgive me. From now on, we are even." Yin Chaozong finally gave him his condition. He thought it was not too much, but it was just a part of his plan. How could he forgive Qin Sheng so easily? Moreover, he did not intend to forgive Qin Sheng. He was humiliated again. Qin Sheng's face was extremely gloomy. Yin Chaozong had achieved his goal today. There was no need for him to continue staying here. He was not in a mood to eat this bowl of fast noodles. It would be the same to eat it another day. So he stood up happily, patted Qin Sheng's shoulder, and said, "I am waiting for your answer, but I am not very patient. When the time comes, I don't know if I go back on my words. Think about it carefully." After Yin Chaozong finished speaking, he laughed and left. It was rare for him to be so carefree and comfortable. This was the first time he had been so hearty in this matter. The feeling of a lion fighting a rabbit was really comfortable. After Yin Chaozong walked out of Shifeng Garden, he immediately walked up to him. Yin Chaozong said casually, "Let's go back to the hotel." When passing by Chang Baji, he glanced at him casually, feeling somewhat envious and jealous. Qin Sheng was such a coward, but he did not expect to have such a friend. He was really lucky. Chang Baji ignored Yin Chaozong and walked quickly into Shifeng Garden. He saw Qin Sheng sitting there in a daze, still thinking about the condition Yin Chaozong had just given him. Chang Baji frowned and asked, "What happened?" Qin Sheng came to his senses and said, Oh, nothing. Let's go back. How was your talk? Chang Baji rarely showed such concern. Qin Sheng shook his head and smiled bitterly. Let's talk about it later. Chang Baji did not ask further. After walking out of Shifeng Garden, Qin Sheng saw only one bodyguard of Lin Changhe was here, but Lin Changhe was not there. He asked casually, "Where is second Uncle Lin?" Chang Baji replied, "I don't know. After you went in, he left." Qin Sheng did not want to meet Lin Changhe at this moment. He knew that Lin Changhe would definitely ask what had happened. He could not tell him that Yin Chaozong had asked him to kneel down and beg for mercy. So he said to Lin Changhe's bodyguard, "Tell second uncle that we will go back first." After saying that, Qin Sheng left the Lingyin temple with Chang Baji. The lonely figure and the complicated look in his eyes made people feel sorry for him more or less. Chapter 298. What do you think? Begging for monthly votes, begging for red votes, begging for support. Qin Sheng and Chang Baji left just like that. They had stayed in the Lingyin temple for more than half an hour, which was shorter than they had imagined. Perhaps no one had expected this. Perhaps they had thought that when the two enemies met, they would at least pretend to be courteous to each other for a few rounds. Qin Sheng, who originally wanted to burn incense, was not in the mood anymore. They held an umbrella and left the Lingyin temple slowly. Chang Baji did not ask much on the way. It was not until they got in the car that he opened his mouth and said, "Not satisfactory." Lao Chang, when people are not powerful, they can only be humiliated in all kinds of ways. What they made me do today, sooner or later, I will pay them back double. Qin Sheng's eyes were like torches. He was not a person who returned good for evil. That was the way of a saint. He was just a nobody who had a nose and two eyes. He would have love and hate, and he would be happy and unhappy. Therefore, he could only return good for evil. In this way, he could live to his heart's content. Chang Baji knew what Qin Sheng meant, and it was also within his expectation. He thought that Qin Sheng dared to make this choice because he knew what he would experience. But what was the final result? Kowtow and apologize. Qin Sheng did not hide and said honestly. For ordinary people, if they offended a big shot, kowtowing and apologizing might be a piece of cake. As a man, as long as it was over, it would be fine. Perhaps many people often kowtowed and apologized, and gradually they would not feel that it was a big deal. But for Qin Sheng, kowtowing and apologizing was equivalent to breaking his legs. He did not know when he could stand up again. This might be more uncomfortable than killing him. Chang Baji was slightly surprised. It was simple for ordinary people, but for Qin Sheng, it was like hitting the soft spot. Yin Chaozong's shrewdness and means were still fierce. Then what about you? Chang Baji did not persuade Qin Sheng to give up, nor did he say that it was nothing. He just still let Qin Sheng choose. After all, he was not in Qin Sheng's position, so he did not understand Qin Sheng's dilemma. But he was sure that if Qin Sheng really agreed, Qin Sheng's position in his heart would definitely be affected. He would not look down on Qin Sheng because of this, but he would more or less feel uncomfortable. Qin Sheng closed his eyes, rubbed his temples, and said, let me think. Chang Baji did not disturb Qin Sheng anymore. He just drove quietly and let Qin Sheng make his own choice. This was Qin Sheng's life, not his. He could not make the decision. The old friend that Lin Changhe was visiting was an eminent monk of the Lingyin temple who had been friends with the Lin family for many years. The monk, who was about the same age as the old lady, was a close friend of Grandpa Lin. It was an unwritten rule that the juniors of the Lin family would visit him every time they came. When Lin Changhe came out, he saw that the bodyguard in Shifeng Garden was already standing at the door. Lin Changhe asked in a hurry, "Where are they?" "Mr. Lin, they've all gone back," the bodyguard reported truthfully. Surprised, Lin Changhe said so fast. Of course, he did not ask the bodyguard how their conversation went. Obviously, the bodyguard did not know either. After thinking for a while, he immediately dialed Qin Sheng's number, but Qin Sheng did not answer. Then Chang Baji dialed Yin Chaozong's number. After the phone was answered, Chang Baji said, "Chaozong, how was your conversation?" "Second uncle, It seems that Qin Sheng did not tell you. We had a good chat. As for the result, you will know in a few days. Yin Chaozong deliberately kept Chang Baji guessing. Second Uncle Lin disliked Yin Chaozong more or less. He felt that this young man was too arrogant. After saying a few words, he hung up the phone. From Yin Chaozong's tone, Lin Changhe could tell that he had won this round and should have reached a conclusion. However, Qin Sheng might have to pay a big price. Lin Changhe sighed. Everything was within his expectation. However, Qin Sheng was the only one who had to pay the price. Thinking of the ups and downs of the Lin family over these years, if the big brother had taken a bigger step, he would not have been in such a difficult situation now. Although it was not as good as the top, it was more than enough. However, which family did not want to go up? For those rich and powerful families in Jiangsu and Zhejiang, in order to consolidate the family's status and influence, it was an unwritten rule since ancient times. Of course, the Lin family was not an exception. In some places, most of the local industries were controlled by several big families. The relationship between clans might not be obvious in the north, but in the south, the clans had a great influence. This was also the reason why there were more ancestral shrines in the south than in the north. Lin Changhe could not help thinking that if Lin Su had been a boy, such a thing might not have happened. After all, the education from childhood would have been deeply rooted in her. However, Lin Changhe felt lucky that Lin Su was a girl. If she had been a boy, no matter what, the Lin family would not have recognized her as his girlfriend. He would have been excluded by all the big families related to the Lin family. The most famous thing should be the one between Su Zhima and Lu Xiaoman. Su Zhima was Jin Yong's cousin. In various novels, Jin Yong had a cousin who was always a bad guy. In the demigods and semi-devils, there was a sex maniac called Yunzhong. Su Zhima's pen name was Yunzhong. Jin Yong's ancestors were from the Cha family in Haining, Zhejiang. The Cha family of Haining was once called a giant family since the Tang and Song dynasties, and one of the few families in the south of the Yangtze River by Emperor Kangxi. How powerful was the Cha family to get such a comment from the Shang ancestor? The Cha family of Haining had 10 Jinshi and 5 Hanlin uncles and nephews. The in-laws of the Cha family were all rich and powerful families in Haining. The glory of the Cha family was in the Kangxi period. After Yongzheng ascended the throne, the Cha family was involved in Longke's rebellion. Why? Because the in-laws of the Cha family was the Chun family of Haining. The Chun family not only had a close relationship with Yongzheng, but also was the confidant of Qianlong. In the end, the root of the Cha family's standing was the marriage between the rich and powerful families. For example, Aunt Jiang, whom Jin Yong mentioned, was married to Jiang Bailey of the Jiang family. Jin Yong's teacher was Wang Zhuan, the younger brother of Wang Wei. The nephew of the finance family was Chun Songzhou, a professor in the Chun family. The reason why Su Zhima was slandered was that he broke the marriage between the rich and powerful families. He abandoned his wife and married Lu Xiaoman, a social butterfly in Shanghai. The whole Haining family drew a clear line with Su Zhima. They only recognized Su Zhima's wife and son, and completely ignored Lu Xiaoman, because his wife's family was one of the financial oligarchs in Shanghai at that time. This was also the reason why the Lin family could be deeply rooted in Ningbo, because they also had marriage with the rich and powerful families in Ningbo. The Yin family, which could become a tycoon in Shanghai from Ningbo, was also the same, because the rich and powerful families shared most of the resources through marriage. They were bound together for good or bad. This was the real reason why the Lin family looked down on Qin Sheng. It was not because they were not of the same social status, but because the Lin family could not break this tradition. So Lin Changhe sighed. Fortunately, Lin Su was a daughter and not a son. Otherwise, she would be completely abandoned by the Lin family. These things, whether it was Qin Sheng or Lin Su, would only see the surface and would not see the essence of things. At this time, after Qin Sheng and Chang Baji left the Linyin Temple, they did not directly go back to the Golden Coast. Instead, they asked Chang Baji to send them to Jiushi Rose Garden. Chang Baji would go to Boss Hu's training base later, so Gu Qingyang had returned to work. Qin Sheng walked to the villa of the Chao family. Chao Ying was in boarding school and could only go home on weekends. Chao Zhang, who was already a senior and had no classes, was playing with his little sister in the living room. Their laughter was endless. Chao sat not far away and read the newspaper. His second aunt, Mina, was playing with her mobile phone and chatting with Chao from time to time. Her eyes were full of happiness. As for his first aunt, Ji Jing, she went to Shanghai to buy goods. Qin Sheng was quite envious of Chao Zhang. He was only a few years older than Chao Zhang, but he had already felt the hardships of life. He had to shoulder everything on his own. However, Chao Zhang did not have to, because his father was there to shelter him from the wind and rain. Yu had a good impression of Qin Sheng. She ran to him and hugged his leg and shouted, "Brother Qin." Chao Zhang said politely, "Brother Qin." Mina looked up slightly and smiled. Qin Sheng is here. Chao put down the newspaper and stared at Qin Sheng. He felt that Qin Sheng had something to do. Qin Sheng greeted Chao and the others politely. "What's up?" Chao asked directly. Qin Sheng nodded. "Let's talk in the study." Chao stood up slowly and asked Chao Zhang to take his little daughter away. In the study, Chao went in and said with a smile, "It's over. Why are you still so worried? You should let go of everything." "Uncle Chao, I'm sorry," Qin Sheng said guiltily. Chao frowned and said, "What's wrong? I said it had nothing to do with you. Why do you still feel sorry?" "Uncle Chao, I already know who the mastermind is. That's why I'm sorry. If I don't tell you, I will feel uneasy." Qin Sheng did not want to hide it, so he said, "So, you know who the mastermind is?" Chao asked in surprise. Qin Sheng said slowly, "My enemy." "Your enemy?" Chao was shocked. Qin Sheng nodded seriously and said, "Yes, my enemy, the Yin family in Shanghai." Chao was lost in thought and stopped talking. In a Manfian's villa, Chu Huanqi had been waiting for Yin Chaozong before he came back from the Lingyin Temple. Since he came here so early in the morning, he obviously knew about the meeting between Yin Chaozong and Qin Sheng. As soon as Yin Chaozong arrived in Hangzhou, he told Chu Huanqi the reason. Chu Huanqi, who was worried about not having a good show to watch, would certainly not miss it. Seeing Yin Chaozong enter the room, Chu Huanqi stood up quickly and said, "Old Yin, how is it?" "Everything is going according to plan." Yin Chaozong smiled playfully. Chu Huanqi said excitedly, "Did he agree?" "Not yet. I gave him time to think about it," Yin Chaozong replied. Chu Huanqi pointed at Yin Chaozong and laughed. "You really want to play this guy to death. But if he really agreed, would you really let him go?" Yin Chaozong rolled his eyes at Chu Huanqi and said sarcastically, "What do you think?" Chu Huanqi instantly understood what Yin Chaozong meant. Then he laughed. The next plot would be more exciting. Chapter 299. Hiding the truth at this moment, Qin Sheng had completely become the prey of Yin Chaozong and Chu Huanqi. For Chu Huanqi, he could swagger around in front of others, but he did not dare to be so unscrupulous in front of Yin Chaozong. Even though his grandfather could be regarded as the #1 figure in Jiangxia, he started from the gray side and bore the original sin. He did not have a solid foundation or a solid foundation. If there really was a big shot who wanted to deal with him, it could be said that they would be hit with a single blow and they would not be able to retaliate. There were too many examples in the past few years. So what if they were powerful? Anything that was unclean could eventually be cleaned up. But the Yin family was different. The Yin family was a rich family with hundreds of years of inheritance in Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and Shanghai. Now, it was even more important in Shanghai. Moreover, there were many direct and collateral relatives, as well as allies by marriage. It was such a powerful force that the Chu family couldn't compare with. This was the difference between a self-made nouveau riche and a rich family. In the study of Jushi Rose Garden, the atmosphere was a bit awkward. But Qin Sheng was the one who felt awkward. He didn't know how to face Chao Da. Although Chao Da was a little surprised, he didn't blame Qin Sheng at all. Why? Qin Sheng was supported by Qin Chang'an. Even if Qin Sheng squandered all of his assets, he would not be afraid at all, because to him, this lifetime was already enough, and he was buying a ticket for Chao Zhang, a ticket to enter the top circle. When the time came, not only would he get everything back, but he would also gain a lot of benefits. This was a deal that no one wanted to miss. Chao didn't say anything. He was just thinking about what had happened in Hangzhou. Did Qin Chang'an, who was far away in Beijing, know? Of course, he didn't know that Qin Chang'an had been to Hangzhou and reached an agreement with Master Lu. What was Master Lu's reward? It could be seen from the recent increase in the valuation of his works by several domestic auction houses. This was Qin Chang'an's power. Uncle Chow, this is my fault. I caused such a big loss to you. I am willing to take all the responsibility. I will resign. Qin Sheng was a little depressed, so he could only say so. Chowda squinted and stared at Qin Sheng. Is that all you can do? You have a mental breakdown because of such a small thing? How old are you? What is there to be afraid of? I dare to invest in you because I believe in your potential. This is nothing. Although I, Chowda, have not been involved in worldly affairs for the past few years, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. Uncle Chow. The more Chowda said so, the guiltier Qin Sheng felt. Chowda waved his hand and said, "You can solve your own problems. If you need help, you can ask at any time. As for this matter, let bygones be bygones. Don't mention it in the future. Do your job well. Go." Uncle Chow, Qin Sheng said, gritting his teeth. Chowda shook his head and said, "No one's life will be smooth sailing. If you don't struggle when you're young, you won't have a chance in the future. You can have nothing but confidence and courage. Sometimes you have to be conceited. You just have to tell yourself that you, Qin Sheng, will be a great figure sooner or later. These are just tests from God. When you really stand on a high mountain, everything in the past will just be a joke to you. Go." Chowda's words made Qin Sheng's blood boil. Qin Sheng was so grateful that he nodded heavily and left the room. What had already happened. Qin Sheng was a little surprised by Chowda's response. He did not blame him at all. However, Qin Sheng could not pretend that nothing had happened. He could only repay Chowda's appreciation by working hard. When Qin Sheng went downstairs, "Mina was about to go out with you, She smiled and said, "Qin Sheng, bring Lin Su over some other day. I'll cook something delicious for you." I've been chatting happily with Lin Su lately. Mina was not much older than them, so she had more topics to talk about with Lin Su. They also added each other's WeChat and other contact information. They should have a lot of interaction. If such a woman married into a family like this, she might be looked at differently by others, but at least she would not suffer for the rest of her life. It was said that suffering was the wealth of life, but sometimes suffering could also make people collapse after coming out of Joshi Rose Garden. Qin Sheng saw that it was still early, so he went to the company first. He basically did not go to the headquarters and let Lao Zhou take care of the specific affairs. He was only in charge of the catering and entertainment. Otherwise, Lao Zhou would be very comfortable and there would be internal friction in the company. Nowadays, Lao Zhou was already very smart and knew how to behave. After all, Chowda had already suppressed him. Yu Fengji was also in the company today. Discussing with Ms. Qin Sheng gave Yu Fengji a new position, which was the company's vice president. She would report everything to Mizan. This was because Qin Sheng knew that with Yu Fengji's talent, it was a waste of her talent to stay in Guangyin Live. As long as time was on the right track, he could let go. Letting her be the vice president could suppress Lao Yu, so that Lao Yu would not make trouble again. Moreover, recently, Mizan had obtained the agency rights of a few catering brands. Currently, she was in the midst of intensive research and selection of locations. Yu Fengji could be just right to help. After talking about business, Mizan and Yu Fengji were not in a hurry to leave. Mizan said with concern, "Qin Sheng, I see that you don't look too good recently. After these things are done, you should give yourself a good vacation. I heard from Fengji that Lin Su is also in Hangzhou. You should find a place to relax. Maybe I've been too busy recently." "Okay, I'll listen to Ms. and be a hands-off boss," Qin Sheng said with a smile. Yu Fengji said with jealousy, "Someone tricked us into going to Hangzhou and then completely ignored us. It's true that when you have a new lover, you forget the old one." Qin Sheng understood the meaning of Yu Fengji's words. He did not know whether to laugh or cry, but he did not respond. Mizan added oil to the fire. "Fengji, If you're interested in Qin Sheng, you should do it earlier. Otherwise, when he gets married, you'll have no chance at all. I'm on your side. I'm afraid that he won't give me a chance, Yu Fengji replied. Qin Sheng hurriedly laughed and said, "Don't make fun of me." After chatting for a while, Qin Sheng hurriedly ran away. Otherwise, he would be hated to death by these two women. When he returned to the Golden Coast, it was already 11:30. As soon as Qin Sheng opened the door, he smelled the fragrance from the kitchen and heard sweet laughter. "I'm back," Qin Sheng shouted as he put away his umbrella. Lin Yu, who was wearing slippers and an apron, hurriedly ran out and exclaimed, "Brother-in-law, you're back. I want to ask you, what kind of magic did you cast on me? You turned a rich lady from a rich family into a good wife and mother with good cooking skills. I really admire you so much." Qin Sheng stared at Lin Yu and handed the umbrella to her as he said, "Don't talk nonsense. Help me hang the umbrella on the balcony." Lin Su walked out of the kitchen and looked at Qin Sheng meaningfully. However, she did not ask anything. She just smiled and said, "Wait a little longer. Dinner will be ready soon." Qin Sheng laughed and said, "I think I can eat 3 bowls of rice today." At this time, Lin Yu ran over from the balcony and said happily, "Brother-in-law, there's another dish I will cook today, but it is definitely not as delicious as my sister's. Don't complain." "You cook?" Qin Sheng was a little surprised. Lin Su had lived independently before, so she had a foundation of cooking before. However, Lin Yu was indeed a fair, rich, and beautiful girl. Even when she was studying abroad, she had a professional housekeeper to cook for her. How could she cook? Lin Yu said unhappily, "What? You don't believe me? I want to learn from my sister. I want to be a woman who can go to the main hall and the kitchen. At that time, I will conquer my future husband with my beauty and cooking skills." It was good to have such an idea. So Qin Sheng praised her, "Not bad, little girl. You have a promising future. I believe in you." Qin Sheng went to change clothes. Lin Yu continued to go to the kitchen to learn cooking skills. After a few minutes, she called Qin Sheng to start the meal. When Qin Sheng came out of the study and saw the sumptuous lunch on the table, he was somewhat surprised. There were 6 dishes and 1 soup. Of course, there was Lin Yu's unattractive boiled green vegetables. Based on Lin Yu's ability, she could only cook such simple dishes. If it was too complicated, it would be really difficult for her. In the middle was Qin Sheng's favorite squirrel mandarin fish. Lin Su spent a lot of effort today. As a result, Qin Sheng basically ate all the rice on the table. He really ate 3 bowls of rice, which made Lin Su and Lin Yu dumbfounded. After all, they had small appetites, so they had to share a bowl of rice among themselves. Although it was Lin Yu's first time to cook, the boiled green vegetables were not bad. Qin Sheng guessed that Lin Su must have taught her step by step. After lunch, Lin Yu had something to do and had to leave. She said that she would go shopping with her friends and then treat Qin Sheng and Lin Su to a big meal in the evening. This girl was now working in a company of the Lin family in Shanghai. Of course, she was a little rich woman who was not short of money. After Lin Yu left, Qin Sheng asked Lin Su to go to rest. He took the initiative to clean up the mess and came out of the kitchen. In the living room, Lin Su had already made a pot of Shengpu tea. Obviously, she was going to ask about what had happened in the morning. Qin Sheng did not intend to tell Lin Su the truth, so he could only think of a way to fool her. Qin Sheng slowly sat beside Lin Su. Lin Su poured a cup of tea for Qin Sheng. This tea set was carefully selected by her. These 2 days, the house had been booked, and she would pay the down payment in 2 days. Originally, she wanted to write the common name of the 2 of them, but Qin Sheng did not agree. He said that it was not necessary to write the common name. It was the same no matter who wrote it. His wife would be responsible for all the property rights of their family. Lin Su could not persuade him, so she did not insist. "How was the conversation between you and him?" Lin Su asked carefully, for fear that this topic would make Qin Sheng unhappy. Qin Sheng chuckled and said, "It was smoother than I thought. He is still the same, the young master of the Yin family in Shanghai, arrogant." "Did he make things difficult for you?" Lin Su asked with concern. She did not want Qin Sheng to be wronged. Qin Sheng chuckled and said, "It was all within my expectation, but he did not go too far. Your husband is not a vegetarian. How could he let him do whatever he wanted? Then what was the final result? Lin Su frowned and said, it seemed that something was wrong. Qin Sheng sighed and said, the negotiation broke down. Lin Su looked surprised. Hearing Qin Sheng's tone was so relaxed, she thought that the negotiation had reached a conclusion. Unexpectedly, the negotiation broke down. She was confused and asked why. He asked me to give you to him. Do you think there is still a need for me to talk with him? Qin Sheng said slowly. This was the explanation he gave to Lin Su. It was a reasonable reason, so Lin Su would not think too much. Lin Su looked at Qin Sheng and did not speak for a long time. After a while, she held Qin Sheng's hand and said, then what are you going to do? Qin Sheng put his arm around Lin Su's shoulder and chuckled as he said, don't worry, we should talk again. Lin Su nodded and leaned her head on Qin Sheng's shoulder. She did not ask anything else. At least she felt temporarily at ease. What about Qin Sheng? He did not know how long Yin Chaozong's patience would last, so he had to make a decision as soon as possible. Chapter 300. He had to be ruthless. Qin Sheng estimated that Yin Chaozong would be patient for 3 days, so he had to make a decision within 3 days. Otherwise, Yin Chaozong would not let him off easily. Moreover, he had made such a big scene before. How could he not have a backup plan? Except for Chang Baji, no one else knew about Qin Sheng's situation. Lin Changhe called Qin Sheng twice, but Qin Sheng did not answer. He did not know how to tell Lin Changhe about this. He just sent a text message to Lin Changhe, and the content was similar to what Yin Chaozong had said. No matter how hard life was, life had to go on. Lin Yu would stay in Hangzhou these days. She stayed with Lin Su every day, taking Qin Sheng's time. Qin Sheng still had to be busy, so he did not notice anything strange. The next morning, Qin Sheng stayed in the company for a while. When it was almost time, he went to the high-speed railway station to pick up Su Qin. He did not forget what he had promised Hao Lei. He called Su Qin when he arrived at the station, saying that he would pick her up. Su Qin was a little surprised when she received the call. She had not contacted Qin Sheng recently, because Qin Sheng seldom replied to her WeChat messages. She did not know whether Qin Sheng was too busy or he did not want to talk to her. Anyway, Hao Lei said that he was busy. Therefore, she did not expect to see Qin Sheng in Hangzhou. After all, she knew that Qin Sheng had a girlfriend now. She did not want to disturb his life, so she just mentioned it to Hao Lei. Oh, okay. I'll call you when I come out, Su Qin said in a daze. Half an hour later, Qin Sheng saw Su Qin at the exit of the high-speed railway station. She was pulling a small suitcase and carrying a black bag. She still had soft black hair. She wore a silver-gray windbreaker and high heels. She was a little dazzling in the crowd. It was just like when she was in high school. She was pure and beautiful, wearing a white dress. When she walked in front of the teaching building, there would always be cheers and whistles. Beautiful women had always been a scarce resource in this society. Seeing Qin Sheng again, Su Qin was a little shy. She smiled shyly and did not know what to say. She thought of the time when they were lying in bed together. She snuggled in Qin Sheng's arms and chatted until they fell asleep. Let me hold it for you. Qin Sheng took the initiative to step forward and take over Su Qin's small suitcase. Women always brought a lot of things when they went out, such as clothes for different occasions, various kinds of cosmetics, and so on. Su Qin went out with light luggage. Su Qin said helplessly, "No need. I can do it myself." "Why are you so polite?" Qin Sheng took it over in an overbearing manner and did not give Su Qin any chance to refuse at all. Su Qin had no choice but to bow her head and say, "Thank you. Let's go." "Don't stand here," Qin Sheng said in a low voice. He had to bear the vicious eyes of many men when Su Qin stood here. However, he had long been used to it. Qin Sheng led Su Qin to the parking lot. Gu Qingyang was waiting there. Though Qin Sheng was absolutely safe these 2 days, he still needed to be careful sometimes. Su Qin followed closely by Qin Sheng's side. Although the continuous autumn rain in Hangzhou was a little cold, when she saw Qin Sheng again, she felt warm in her heart. Women were like this. "Hao Lei told you?" Su Qin asked in a low voice. She did not know when she started to be a little careful in front of Qin Sheng. She was no longer as carefree as she was in the past, because she knew that no matter what she did, Qin Sheng would spoil her. Qin Sheng said in a complaining tone, "I have to say something about you. Why didn't you tell me that you came to Hangzhou? Do you have a good relationship with Hao Lei or with me?" Qin Sheng's words were a little ambiguous. However, since he said so, it showed that he treated Su Qin as the closest person. As long as Su Qin needed help, no matter how difficult it was, Qin Sheng would promise and try his best to do it. Su Qin looked like a little girl who had done something wrong. She lowered her head and said, "I heard that you were very busy, so I didn't want to bother you." She just came to Hangzhou to relax, and there was nothing important. Of course, because Qin Sheng was in Hangzhou, she came to Hangzhou. Even though she might not be able to see Qin Sheng, she would be very satisfied to be in the city where Qin Sheng was. Qin Sheng said with a smile, "No matter how busy you are, since you came to Hangzhou, I have to receive you. Don't do this next time." "Oh, I see." Su Qin nodded silently. However, there was a trace of a happy smile at the corner of her mouth. In an instant, the surrounding air seemed to be warm. Qin Sheng's car had already been changed to an Audi A8L, which was also in line with his low-key connotation. When Su Qin saw it, she was somewhat lost in thought. Hao Lei just said that Qin Sheng was a deputy general manager in a company in Hangzhou and did not say anything else. Su Qin was a little suspicious at that time. Now it seemed that Qin Sheng was doing quite well in Hangzhou. "I have already booked a hotel for you. Go to the hotel first. Hao Lei will wait for us in the restaurant," Qin Sheng said. "Well, I will listen to you." Su Qin nodded. Although she had already booked a hotel, she still said so. She could only cancel the one there. Qin Sheng liked the Four Seasons Hotel more, so he also booked a Four Seasons Hotel for Su Qin. There were more places to eat here, both the environment and the taste were good. On the way, Qin Sheng and Su Qin talked and laughed. Su Qin also gradually relaxed. She asked about Qin Sheng's situation in Hangzhou and talked about her work in Shanghai. After all, Qin Sheng had disappeared for so long. Last time when they met in Xin, they just chatted for a while, which could not relieve the pain of lovesickness. However, from the beginning to the end, Su Qin did not mention anything about Lin Su. Gu Qingyang drove quietly. He had been used to all kinds of beauties around Qin Sheng. After all, Brother Qin was so charming that even Senior Uncle Chong was willing to follow him. If he met such a woman in his life, he would definitely treat her like the palm of his hand. After checking in and putting the luggage back in the room, Qin Sheng went to the restaurant with Su Qin. Hao Lei had been waiting for a long time. After seeing Su Qin, they greeted each other familiarly. When they were in Shanghai, Su Qin and Hao Lei could see each other occasionally. After all, Hao Lei was not busy at that time. It seemed that Hao Lei had a good relationship with the women around Qin Sheng. It also seemed that Hao Lei cleaned up the mess for Qin Sheng. Maybe they were good brothers. The atmosphere of the whole lunch was very harmonious. After all, this was the first time for the three of them to get together. They talked about the trivial things in the past. Qin Sheng and Su Qin did not hide anything. They talked about many things on their own initiative, which made Hao Lei relax a lot. He was afraid that the atmosphere would be awkward. Qin Sheng enjoyed this situation very much. After all, he had been under a lot of pressure recently. It was rare for him to be so relaxed. In the afternoon, Qin Sheng had something to deal with. Originally, he asked Hao Lei to show Su Qin around in Hangzhou. However, Su Qin said it was not necessary. She could do it alone. Qin Sheng did not insist. During dinner, Qin Sheng invited Lin Su to a Western restaurant that was not bad. Of course, Hao Lei would not spoil the fun and steal the show. Su Qin could not forget Qin Sheng, so she came to Hangzhou. Of course, she had to give them some time to be alone. "How many days are you going to stay in Hangzhou?" Qin Sheng asked. He did not like Western food very much, but he knew that Su Qin liked it. So he chose this restaurant, which was relatively high-end in Hangzhou. Su Qin took a sip of red wine and replied, "I haven't decided yet. I have nothing to do in the company recently, so I asked for a few days' leave. Hangzhou is a pretty good city. You can go around, but I don't think I have time to accompany you. I have a lot of things to do recently," Qin Sheng said frankly. He did not have time. Su Qin chuckled and said, "It's okay. I can go around by myself." Don't worry about me. Are you going to stay in Shanghai forever? Don't go back to Xi'an? Uncle and auntie are old. You're the only pearl in their eyes. You should spend more time with them. Qin Sheng said, half-jokingly. Su Qin asked, what about you? Don't you want to go back? Since I was young, my grandfather said that I was destined to be a person without roots. So it's the same wherever I go. Moreover, my path is different from others. I am destined to go forward alone, Qin Sheng said cruelly. This sentence was like a needle piercing into Su Qin's heart. Su Qin laughed at herself and said, So, is this the reason why you broke up with me? Su Qin, I still say the same thing. If you want, we can be very good friends. I know you like me. I used to like you too. But now I'm not who I used to be. You'll understand one day that it is better for you to stay away from me. Qin Sheng gritted his teeth and continued. He seemed to have said these words before. Su Qin was no longer fragile. She said firmly, I know what you want to say. In fact, you don't have to say these words. I don't expect anything. As long as I can see you occasionally, that's enough. Maybe, after a few years, I will slowly forget you. At that time, I will leave Shanghai and go back to Xi'an. I will find a man who is suitable for me and also likes me. I will get married and have a pair of beautiful and lovely children. I will watch them grow up slowly and accompany my parents to grow old slowly. I will live an ordinary life that belongs to me. I might occasionally think of you, but I'll definitely only think of those beautiful things. I'll purse my lips and smile, thanking you for the memories you gave me, and also thanking me for having you. Then, I'll think about where you are now and what you're doing. At this time, two little guys run over and call me Mom. I will hold them and go back to reality again. Qin Sheng did not know why, when Su Qin said these words, he felt inexplicably uncomfortable in his heart. It was as if something that he had treasured for many years was taken away by others. Then I will bless you. Qin Sheng was a little breathless, but he still wanted to bless her. Su Qin forced a smile and said, I will also bless you. After dinner, Su Qin and Qin Sheng walked out of the restaurant. The rain outside was getting heavier. Qin Sheng said he would send Su Qin away. However, Su Qin insisted on walking by herself and asked Qin Sheng to leave first. Qin Sheng could see from Su Qin's eyes that she insisted, so he had to get in the car and leave first. Su Qin held an umbrella and walked forward aimlessly. She did not know where she was going or what she was going to do. She just left like this, because she knew that she was getting farther and farther away from Qin Sheng. The rain was getting heavier and heavier. Su Qin's mood was getting worse and worse. Thinking of everything that she had once had, she could not bear it anymore. She threw away the umbrella, squatted on the ground, and cried bitterly with her head in her arms. The cold autumn rain was wreaking havoc on Su Qin's weak body, which made people feel extremely distressed. A few meters behind Su Qin, an Audi A8L had been closely following her. Qin Sheng, who was sitting in the car, had red eyes and clenched his fists. His chest was aching badly, but he still did not get out of the car. Chapter 301. Never bow down. Some people say that if you don't cry in the middle of the night, you can't talk about life. But why do you have to go through hardships to be considered life? Isn't everyone pursuing a happy and stable life? This is a paradox. In the late autumn rainy night, a woman with a scarred heart was crying in the rain for love. Anyone would feel sorry for her, but it was a beautiful woman with outstanding temperament. Some passers-by passed by in a hurry. It was none of their business, and they were afraid of getting into trouble. Some passers-by frowned and hesitated to help. After all, everyone has a low tide in life. Finally, a pair of old people stopped. The old lady held an umbrella for Su Qin and said worriedly, Child, what's wrong with you? The old man picked up the umbrella beside him and held it for her, trying not to let her get wet again. After all, the autumn rain was piercing to the bone, and it was easy to get sick. Young people usually don't pay attention to their health. When they get old, they will regret it. After Su Qin cried, she finally felt less sad in her heart. At this time, she was a little embarrassed. Her hair and clothes had been wet by the rain. She raised her head and looked at the old lady with tears in her eyes. She wiped her tears and shook her head. "Grandma, I'm fine." The old lady didn't expect the girl in front of her to be so beautiful. She said with some pity, "Silly girl, there's nothing you can't get through, and there's nothing you can't let go. They're all your life experiences and memories. Raise your head and go on bravely. You still have a long way to go." Su Qin stood up. The old man handed the umbrella to her and said with a smile, "Such a beautiful girl. Life will not treat you badly. Go back, take a bath, and have a good sleep. Tomorrow is a new day," the old lady said with a kind smile. Su Qin nodded heavily. The difficult knot in her heart seemed to have loosened. She should live like before, not like this. "Thank you, Grandpa and Grandma." Su Qin smiled and then strode away with the umbrella. She stopped a taxi by the roadside and went to the hotel. Now she didn't want to do anything but have a good sleep. The old lady held the old man's arm again. The old man tried to put the umbrella closer to the old lady. The two old people looked very loving. The old lady sighed. "Love always tortures every young child. Weren't we like this when we were young? It's good to be young," the old man sighed. The two of them walked very slowly, chattering as if they had endless things to say. This seemed to be the life that everyone wanted. How many people could live like this when they were old? Qin Sheng watched Su Qin get in the car and leave. Then he watched the two old people disappear from his sight. His emotions had recovered, and he was not as agitated as before. Few things could make him lose his composure like this. "Am I too cruel?" Qin Sheng muttered to himself, but it also seemed that he was asking Gu Qingyang, who was driving. Gu Qingyang was at a loss. He looked at Qin Sheng from the rearview mirror, but he did not know what to say. He had guessed more or less that the relationship between Qin Sheng and this beauty was very complicated. Otherwise, the beauty would not have cried in the heavy rain, and Brother Qin would not have been so upset. Her name is Su Qin. She used to be the woman I love the most. She was also my first love. From high school to university, she accompanied me for 6 years. "Qingyang, what do you think? Is it right or wrong for me to do this?" Qin Sheng laughed at himself, with tears in his eyes. Gu Qingyang said hesitantly, "Brother Qin, I don't know much about the world. Maybe there are many things that I don't understand. But I have known since I was a child that you can't hurt anyone who treats you well. After all, there are not many people who treat you well sincerely in your life." Gu Qingyang's simple words made Qin Sheng absent-minded again. Did he do something wrong? "Let's go back." Qin Sheng sighed and said, "Lin Su did not come back tonight. Lin Yu had asked Qin Sheng to stay in Wooly No. 1. Qin Sheng did not say anything about it. He stayed in the study for half a night and then went to bed. On Monday, Han Bing's new company opened. After facing Su Qin, Qin Sheng had to face Lin Su. He was destined to be entangled with women for the rest of his life. No wonder his grandfather had to find him. Han Bing's company was located on Beishan Road, which was adjacent to Westlake. The rent was very high, but for this rich woman who had inherited hundreds of millions of yuan, it was nothing. Since her father passed away, Han Bing's life had changed completely. She was no longer as unruly and capricious as before. After all, no one could shelter her. She stayed away from those bad friends and only talked to a few friends who were really good to her. As for her life, she just did what she liked. As long as she was happy and comfortable, money was not important to her. For the opening of the new company, Han Bing invited many guests and friends. After all, they were all here to support the opening. Many of them were her father's old friends in Hangzhou. Qin Sheng was also one of the guests. He came with Hao Lei. Han Bing was sometimes capricious and often quarreled with Qin Sheng. But when she was working, she was definitely a capable and strong woman. Qin Sheng had seen it when he was her driver. So when a new company opened today, Han Bing was very busy. When Qin Sheng and Hao Lei came in, she greeted them with a smile. "I was wondering why you guys are not here yet. When your new company opens, even if we have something big, we have to come to support you. If you become the richest woman in the future, you still have to support us." Qin Sheng deliberately made fun of Han Bing. Today, Han Bing was dressed in standard business attire and meticulously made up. She had the aura of a strong woman and greeted all the guests politely. At this time, an elder came. Han Bing stared at Qin Sheng and said, I don't want to talk to you. You guys go ahead. I don't have time to entertain you today. No matter what, congratulations. You can go ahead with your work. Don't worry about us. Qin Sheng said to Han Bing with a smile. Hao Lei also said a few words of congratulations, and they were led by the receptionist to a place to sit down and drink tea. At 12 o'clock at noon, the official ribbon-cutting ceremony was held. Qin Sheng stood beside Han Bing, which showed how important he was to her. They cut the ribbon with several guests at the same time in the sound of fireworks, which also announced that Han Bing had officially settled in Hangzhou. After the ribbon-cutting ceremony, it was the celebration lunch of Han Bing's company. Qin Sheng and Hao Lei did not escape, but went to the hotel. They had to keep an eye on Han Bing in case she drank too much and was taken advantage of by others. After the ribbon-cutting ceremony, it was already 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Qin Sheng and Hao Lei said goodbye and left. Both of them drank a little, but with Gu Qingyang driving, it did not matter. Han Bing, who was in a good mood, drank too much and was sent home by the company to rest. Life went on, but they had to face what they had to face. Qin Sheng did not have much time left. Chang Baji did not ask Qin Sheng about it. He had been in Boss Hu's training base for the past 2 days. Lin Changhe did not ask, but he still stayed in Hangzhou to wait for the news. He thought that Qin Sheng and Yin Chaozong must have reached some agreement. Since he was checking the accounts in Hangzhou, he could wait for a few days. Everyone was waiting for Qin Sheng's news. Yin Chaozong was also in Hangzhou. His family had a good relationship with many big families in Hangzhou. After all, he was born in Ningbo, and many Ningbo families had already taken root in Hangzhou. In addition, many local tycoons in Hangzhou were developing in Shanghai, which was the economic center of the country. Therefore, Yin Chaozong had been visiting these families and tycoons in the past 2 days. As the successor of the Yin family, he knew these rules of conduct. In the evening, when Yin Chaozong came back from the banquet, Chu Huanqi, who loved to watch the fun, called him and asked him patiently, How is it? Did that guy reply? Not yet. Why are you more anxious than me? Yin Chaozong was speechless. Chu Huanqi was really a playboy, but it seemed that he had not done anything bad. Chu Huanqi said in a low voice, I am waiting to watch the show. Ha ha. I will inform you when I get the news. If you don't watch the show, it will not be lively, Yin Chaozong said playfully. Chu Huanqi said happily, Don't worry. I will find more people for you. After hanging up the phone, Chu Huanqi stopped smiling. He picked up a glass of wine and drank it up. The table in front of him was a mess. He had not cleaned it for several days because he was in a bad mood. He was the grandson of the old monk. Everyone respected and feared him. No one dared to offend him. He could get everything he wanted, including a mansion, a luxury car, and a beautiful woman. But he could not get a true love. Yes, he was a human, not an animal. Although the women around him had changed one after another, he had once loved a woman. However, even though he had tried everything to pursue her, the woman had never looked at him in the eye. Later, he did not force the woman. He just stayed by her side quietly. But if anything happened to the woman, he would deal with it secretly. Because of this, he became what he was now. Today, he found out that the woman was going to get married next month. His dream was completely shattered. As Chowda thought, Qin Chang'an, who was far away in Beijing, had been paying attention to what was happening in Hangzhou. Although he said that he would not care about Qin Sheng and let him do whatever he wanted, he was still afraid that what had happened last time would happen again. After knowing that Yin Chaozong had gone to Hangzhou for the first time, he had asked Zhuang Zhou to go south. So during this time, Zhuang Zhou had been following Qin Sheng. Unless Qin Sheng was in danger, Zhuang Zhou would not show up. After Gong Sun came to the study, Qin Chang'an took off his reading glasses and asked casually, Has Qin Ran boarded the plane? Gong Sun nodded and said, She is flying now. That's good. No one will intervene in what is happening in Hangzhou when she is not here, Qin Chang'an said with satisfaction. He arranged for Qin Ran to Europe on purpose, so that she would not intervene in Qin Sheng's business. What happened last time was too high profile, so he let Qin Sheng deal with it himself this time. Gong Sun said with interest, Master, how do you think young Master will solve the problem? The Lin family was pressing on, and Yin Chaozong and Chu Huanqi were joining hands. Qin Sheng, who was caught in the middle, had no choice. He could do whatever he wants, but he can't give in. Qin Chang'an knocked on the table and snorted. This was his bottom line for Qin Sheng. If he could not fight against Yin Chaozong, how could he fight against those playboys in Sijio City in the future? They were much more powerful than Yin Chaozong. Gong Sun smiled bitterly and said nothing. Late at night, Qin Sheng went back to the Golden Coast. Lin Su still did not come back. It was said that several sisters of the Lin family were having a party at Wulin 1. It was so late, but second uncle did not let her go. Qin Sheng said a few words and hung up the phone. He understood that this was Lin Changhe's pressure on him in a different way. Tomorrow was the last day. Qin Sheng had no choice but to walk into the study slowly. He had to make a choice tonight. Chapter 302. Chapter 302. Failed. Most of the things in life would not go your way, and no one could be omnipotent. No one could have a smooth life, and no one could be omnipotent. Everyone had things that they could not get or accomplish. Everyone had regrets and regrets. These beautiful and unpleasant things form a life. No one could be sure whether the choice at the moment was right or wrong, but they had to make a choice after all. After all, many times in life were multiple choice questions. One after another, they formed a score. Qin Sheng locked himself in the study. Every time he had to make a choice, he would be alone and think about it quietly. Finally, he made a choice. It was the same today. A bottle of liquor, a pack of cigarettes, and a song that he would never get tired of listening to. He smoked, drank, listened to the song, and slowly fell into deep thought. Time passed, from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, and then to 2 o'clock. Qin Sheng's brain was playing a game, and he had weighed all the pros and cons. If he refused, he would either start a full-scale war with Yin Chaozong, or he could only take Lin Su away from this troublesome place. It was uncertain whether Chang Baji and the others would still follow him. Everything that he had worked so hard to get would be wasted. The Lin family was completely disappointed. If he agreed, he would lose his dignity, which he did not want to lose the most. He would become the laughing stock of Yin Chaozong. He would be laughed at by many people, and many people would be disappointed. But he could continue to live in Hangzhou, and he would not have to wander around. If he was lucky, he could make a name for himself here many years later. For many people, this was an easy choice, but for Qin Sheng, it was a difficult choice. He was afraid that after making this choice today, he would have no principles and bottom line in the future. He was afraid that he would not be that young man anymore. But he had no choice, so he could only make this choice. After he finished drinking and smoking, the song was still playing. However, Qin Sheng had already fallen asleep leaning against a chair. In his dream, he had returned to his childhood. His grandfather was sitting under the old locust tree, enjoying the cool breeze, leisurely and contented. He was playing the yard, carefree and carefree. It seemed that every time Qin Sheng encountered setbacks or difficulties, he could dream of his grandfather. When they were young, many people yearned to grow up, as if they could travel the world with a sword when they grew up. When they grew up, many people wanted to go back to their childhood because they found that the world they yearned for did not exist, and there were too many troubles and sorrows. At dawn, Qin Sheng opened his eyes and took out his phone. In the end, he sent a text message to Yin Chaozong. You decide the time and place. He admitted defeat. On this day, Qin Sheng turned off his phone and locked himself in the study. He did not contact anyone, did not eat or drink, and only smoked and drank. He completely let himself sink into depravity. He had once believed that he would never be a good-for-nothing in this life. But now, he had to kneel down and apologize to someone. Wasn't that enough of a good-for-nothing? In the Amphion Hotel, when Yin Chaozong woke up in the early morning, he saw Qin Sheng's text message on the screen of his mobile phone and burst into laughter all of a sudden. He felt extremely carefree and comfortable, which startled the beautiful campus bell in the quilt next to him. The beautiful campus bell rushed to Hangzhou from Shanghai last night. After all, Yin Chaozong felt somewhat lonely in Hangzhou. Yin Chaozong shouted excitedly, "Ha ha, I thought you were so awesome. I thought the man Lin Su chose would be indomitable, but you still admitted defeat. You were just SOSO. Qin Sheng. Yin Xiaozong was very excited. The pretty campus belle asked in a daze, "Honey, what's wrong with you?" "Nothing, go back to sleep." Yin Xiaozong patted the back of the pretty campus belle and comforted her. Then he put on his clothes and got up. After getting up, Yin Xiaozong dialed Chu Huanqi's number directly without washing up. Last night, Chu Huanqi had been drinking alone all night. In the end, he got himself drunk. He hadn't gotten up until Yin Xiaozong's call. Chu Huanqi did not see who was calling. He had a splitting headache and asked casually, "Who is it?" "It's me, Yin Xiaozong." Yin Xiaozong came straight to the point. Chu Huanqi became a little sober and asked, "Oh, child Yin, what can I do for you?" He agreed. "You can get ready. We will discuss the location at noon the day after tomorrow." Yin Xiaozong arranged directly without any nonsense. Chu Huanqi was stunned. Although he liked to join in the fun and humiliate others, he could not be happy today, because the woman he liked the most was about to get married. Nothing could arouse his interest. He could only deal with it and said in a low voice, "I see. I will arrange it now." After hanging up the phone, Chu Huanqi continued to sleep. Everyone had bad moods, including him. Men would always be restless if they could not get what they wanted. They would not cherish what they had. Perhaps, even if Chu Huanqi had gotten that woman back then, he would have gotten tired of her in a short time based on his character. But he just could not get her. This was the root of the problem. The most helpless thing for men was the sense of failure. Qin Sheng's phone was turned off. At first, nothing happened. But at noon, it became serious. Chowda had something to discuss with Qin Sheng. He still wanted to help Qin Sheng more or less. However, Qin Sheng's phone was turned off. Hence, he went to look for Chang Baji. There was no news from Chang Baji either. This time, nobody could find Qin Sheng. Chang Baji could only contact Lin Su because no one had seen Qin Sheng today. Maybe only Lin Su knew where Qin Sheng was. Lin Su did not go back to the Golden Coast last night. In the morning, she directly went to the company from Martial Arts No. 1. She was ready to resign. Last night, her second uncle discussed with her and planned to let her be in charge of the affairs of the Lin family in Hangzhou. After all, she was capable. Moreover, how could the daughter of the Lin family work for others? She would be laughed at if others knew about it. Lin Su told Chang Baji that she had not been home for 2 days. Chang Baji panicked, afraid that something bad had happened to Qin Sheng. Lin Su also realized that something was wrong. She hurried to ask Chang Baji. Chang Baji told her that Qin Sheng's phone was turned off and no one could contact him. Lin Su told Chang Baji that the last time Qin Sheng called her was last night. After thinking for a while, Chang Baji contacted Gu Qingyang. Gu Qingyang had been Qin Sheng's driver for 2 days, so he might know where Qin Sheng was. Gu Qingyang was surprised to receive the call. He had been waiting for Qin Sheng at the gate of the Golden Coast community in the morning. Qin Sheng had not come out yet. He had texted Qin Sheng, but Qin Sheng did not reply. He thought Qin Sheng was busy, so he did not call him but waited outside. Receiving the call from his senior uncle, Gu Qingyang said honestly, "Senior uncle, I went back after driving Brother Qin home last night. I arrived at the gate of the community at 7 o'clock this morning, but Brother Qin has not come out yet. If he's not at home, I definitely don't know where he is." Therefore, he could only exclude the last possibility, which was his home in the Golden Coast. As Gu Qingyang had said, if Qin Sheng was not at home, no one knew where he was. In a big city with millions of people, it was easy for a person to disappear. Therefore, Lin Su and Chang Baji went to the Golden Coast at the same time. Lin Su and Chang Baji arrived at the Golden Coast almost at the same time. Lin Su could tell that she was worried about Qin Sheng. When she saw Chang Baji, she asked, "What happened to him these days?" Of course, he could not tell her about that. Chang Baji had to say, "I was not in the city these days, so I really don't know." Lin Su could only ask Gu Qingyang, "Qingyang, do you know?" "I don't know. When I drove Brother Qin home last night, I didn't find anything strange." Gu Qingyang shook his head. He thought that Qin Sheng might be missing because of what happened last night. However, it was Qin Sheng's first love. Of course, he could not tell Lin Su about it. Otherwise, it would cause family conflicts. Lin Su felt somewhat helpless. She frowned and had to go home with Chang Baji and Gu Qingyang to see whether Qin Sheng was at home. When she opened the door, the living room was empty. There was no one in the room. When Chang Baji was about to check the study, he found that the door of the study was locked. He finally felt relieved because he was sure that Qin Sheng was in the study. Seeing Chang Baji's expression, Lin Su frowned and asked, "Is he inside?" Chang Baji explained, "The door is locked from the inside. You should be inside." Lin Su gnashed her teeth and knocked on the door. "Qin Sheng, are you inside?" No one answered. Lin Su knocked on the door again and said, "What happened to you? Don't scare me." Before Lin Su finished her words, Qin Sheng had already opened the door. When they saw that the door was opened, both Lin Su and Chang Baji were completely relieved. However, Qin Sheng in front of them was quite embarrassed. His hair was disheveled and his face was greasy. His eyes were dull. He reeked of alcohol and smoke. The room was also a mess. "Why are you here?" No matter how depraved Qin Sheng was, he would definitely not see anything strange in front of Lin Su. Lin Su said somewhat angrily, "What happened to you? You turned off your phone. None of us could find you. We thought something happened to you." "I'm fine. I was just thinking about something. Maybe my phone ran out of battery and turned off automatically," Qin Sheng said with a smile. It seemed that he was really fine. Although Lin Su had some doubts, in front of outsiders, she could only say, "Well, don't do this in the future. You really scared everyone." Seeing Lin Su's beautiful face turn pale and seeing Chang Baji's anxiety and worry, Qin Sheng was more determined to make that choice. Qin Sheng touched Lin Su's hair and admitted, "Okay, I got it. I'm hungry. I haven't eaten yet." Lin Su was satisfied and said, "I'm going to make something for you." After Lin Su left, Qin Sheng said, "Qingyang, go to the living room and sit for a while. Lao Chang, I have something to tell you." Chang Baji followed Qin Sheng into the study and closed the door. The study was in a mess. The floor was full of cigarette butts and 2 bottles of white wine. It could be seen what Qin Sheng had experienced. "I've already made my choice." Qin Sheng opened the window and said without turning his head, "Maybe I'll let you down. Is this the reason why you are degenerate and give up on yourself?" Chang Baji asked in a sarcastic tone. Now he understood why Qin Sheng turned off his phone. He was completely avoiding it. Qin Sheng did not say anything and remained silent. Chang Baji continued, "Do you know what the symbol of maturity is? Maturity is compromise. You cannot compromise. Some things are there, forcing you to compromise. I know you have your own principles and character, but people have to gradually change with the environment to adapt to the survival rules and game rules of this society. I dare not say that you can be flexible, but at least you should be able to pick up and let go. If you can't let go now, how can you do it in the future? Not everyone can bow and bend their knees. But those who can do it, even if they are as humble as the dust, can also be a dog's tail flower." Chang Baji rarely talked about these long principles, but his relationship with Qin Sheng was complicated. He did not want to see Qin Sheng be defeated by reality because of this matter. Chang Baji's words made Qin Sheng's depressed mood gradually brighten. Yes, he could not let go of these things. This time he shed all pretenses and survived, but what about the next time? Do you know there's a kind of fish called lungfish? If you put it in the water, it breathes with its gills. If it's still on land, it breathes with its lungs. If there is nothing, it doesn't eat or drink and hibernates in the mud for several years. You are also a person who has been to the gates of hell many times. Don't you understand? Everything that can't kill you will only make you stronger. In the end, Chang Baji's tone had become extremely tough. If he finished saying these words, and Qin Sheng still could not stand up, then he would be completely disappointed. Maybe he would leave Qin Sheng. A person without ambition and confidence was more terrible than anything else. Chapter 303. What the hell? Everything that couldn't kill you would only make you stronger. Although Qin Sheng was less than 30 years old, he had experienced many times of death. The most recent one was on Mount Jihua. He was almost dead, but luckily escaped. If Shuangzhou hadn't arrived in time and sent him to the hospital as soon as possible, Qin Sheng would have died long ago. Every time he experienced death, Qin Sheng was never afraid. Every time he survived, he became stronger. Since he was not afraid of death, what else should he be afraid of? Qin Sheng took a few deep breaths and stared at Changbaji. He was really a bit messy from last night to today, which was not his character. How did his grandfather teach him? If his grandfather was here, he would not be disappointed with any choice he made, but definitely with his current state. Qin Sheng's eyes, which were dull, finally returned to normal. He said firmly, "Lao Chong, I'm sorry to make you worry. I said that no matter what decision you make, I will support you and stay by your side. But you can't give up on yourself. If you give up on yourself, what reason do we have to persist?" Changbaji had thought about a lot of things these days. Originally, he thought that Qin Sheng's choice might make him disappointed. But how many people in this world could live with a straight back? How many people could stand out with a straight back? No matter how much you had been wronged and how many hardships you had experienced, once you succeeded, it would all be a joke. He had only followed Qin Sheng for a year. What Qin Sheng had done in 1 year was enough for him to see Qin Sheng's potential. If he hadn't met Yin Chaozong, who was a strong opponent, Qin Sheng would definitely have made a name for himself in 10 years. Even though he had encountered trouble now, he had to believe in Qin Sheng. He was betting on Qin Sheng's fate. At this time, Qin Sheng had already come to himself. He walked slowly to Changbaji and held his shoulders. His eyes were like torches as he said, "Well, Lao Chong, with your words, I don't believe that there is any obstacle that I can't overcome." Changbaji laughed out loud and said, "This is the Qin Sheng I know." He did not disgrace old Master Qin. Qin Sheng and Changbaji laughed out loud as they walked out of the study. Lin Su was cooking in the kitchen. Qin Sheng took the opportunity to take a shower and change his clothes. Gu Qingyang helped Qin Sheng tidy up the mess in the study. Lin Su simply cooked some noodles and fried 2 vegetable dishes. Qin Sheng, who had been hungry for a long time, wolfed down this bowl of noodles. At this moment, he felt that this bowl of noodles was the most delicious in the world. After the meal, Qin Sheng turned on his phone again. Naturally, he received a text message from Yin Chaozong. The time was 12 o'clock noon the day after tomorrow. The specific location was to be determined. Someone would be sent to pick him up at that time. Qin Sheng showed the text to Changbaji. After reading it, Changbaji pondered and said, "Will they play any tricks? What tricks can he play? If he really wanted to get rid of me without hesitation, he would not be Yin Chaozong. He's a rich playboy. He has more scruples than us," Qin Sheng said disapprovingly. This was his original character. At this moment, Lin Su was cleaning up in the kitchen, which was why he dared to say this. Otherwise, he would have to be scrupulous so that Lin Su would not worry. Changbaji hesitated for a while and said, "Tomorrow, we'd better be careful. We'll take a few more people there, just in case." Qin Sheng did not refuse. He nodded and agreed. Okay. Changbaji stayed in the Golden Coast for more than an hour. After making sure that Qin Sheng was fine, he left with Gu Qingyang. He would arrange the rest. The day after tomorrow, he would take Gu Qingyang, Gu Xiaobo, Hao Lei, and Tang Shi to follow Qin Sheng to make sure that nothing would go wrong. After the 2 guests left, Lin Su also finished cleaning up. She went back to the living room and stared at Qin Sheng with a frown. "Are you hiding something from me? What can I hide from you?" Qin Sheng shrugged and chuckled. "There are too many things to do in the company these days. Moreover, so many things have happened recently. I'm under a lot of pressure. I want to calm down. Are you sure you're okay?" Lin Su squinted and asked. Qin Sheng held Lin Su in his arms and said, "I'm fine. Don't worry. I've died several times. Nothing can stun me." "That's good." Lin Su was relieved. She thought it was about Yin Chaozong again. However, she thought that they did not reach an agreement the day before yesterday. She asked her second uncle and got the same answer. Therefore, it should not be about this. Lin Su thought that what she had told second uncle was right. She said to Qin Sheng, "I'm going to resign from the company. I was going to tell the leader today. However, you suddenly made such a scene, so I didn't have time. Second uncle asked me to take charge of the specific affairs of the Hangzhou branch. I've agreed." Qin Sheng said half-jokingly, "Great. It's really a waste of your talent to let a financial genius like you work in a charity foundation. Lin Su smiled and said, "By the way, I'm going back to Ningbo this weekend. Do you want to go with me? The thing between Yin Chaozong and me has not been settled yet. I guess your family will not treat me well when I go back. At that time, you'll have a bad relationship with them, so I won't go with you this time. When the thing between me and Yin Chaozong is settled and your family gives in, I'll go back with you openly. What do you think?" Qin Sheng said. The old lady was not in good health. Lin Su should go back to see her. This was the obligation of a descendant. He could not stop Lin Su from reconciling with the Lin family because of him. Lin Su hesitated for a while. She knew what he was thinking. Finally, she nodded and said, "Okay." After Chu Huanqi woke up, he met with Yin Chaozong. They discussed all the countermeasures. Now, they just waited for the protagonist and the audience to arrive. All the trivial things were handled by Chu Huanqi. The next day, people in different circles in Hangzhou received different invitations from Chu Huanqi and Yin Chaozong. They did not mention the specific content. They only invited these people to Yuerong Manor in Cici at noon tomorrow, which happened to be the same place where Yin Chaozong and Qin Sheng would meet. The meaning was self-evident. As for the old monk, it was needless to say that all the people who should be there would be there. Many of them were invited by Yuan Ku and the others. After all, Chu Huanqi was not that influential. Among those invited were Boss Hu, Luo Changgong, Yang Deng, and the people from the Duga family. As for Yin Chaozong, it was another group of people. People in Yin Chaozong's group wondered what he was going to do. They thought the Yin family was going to invest more in Hangzhou. People in Chu Huanqi's group all suspected that the old monk was going to do something big. The whole city of Hangzhou became lively in an instant. Everyone was waiting for the mystery to be solved tomorrow. Several tycoons in Third Master Wu's group, who were at the same level as Luo Changgong, received invitations. After discussing with each other, some of them were willing to go, while others were not. They all thought the old monk was going to retire and choose a new successor. But it had nothing to do with them. In the evening, Yang Deng was having dinner in Luo Changgong's house. During dinner, he asked casually, "What the hell do you think the old monk is doing? Why did he mobilize so many people?" "I don't know. We will know when we go there tomorrow. Anyway, we have nothing to do. Let's just go and join in the fun." Luo Changgong drank wine and said casually. Originally, Yang Deng wanted to ask Qin Sheng to go with him, but he thought that Qin Sheng was busy recently and had a lot of things to deal with, so he did not disturb Qin Sheng. Anyway, if there was any movement, he would tell Qin Sheng. Of course, he did not expect that Qin Sheng was the main character of this farce. Yang Deng nodded quietly and said, "Okay, I will see what they can do." At the same time, Lin Changhe also received a call. But Yin Chaozong told Lin Changhe that the Yin family was going to hold a lunch in Yuerong Manor in Cici. The people invited were all aristocratic families and partners who were on good terms with the Yin family. Lin Changhe must come to support them. Although Lin Changhe was doubtful, he still agreed. As for Qin Sheng, he did not know what was going on in the outside world. He stayed at home all day and did not go anywhere. Every time he was upset, only books could calm him down. It was not a bad thing to read more. In the long history of thousands of years, there had never been a lack of wise people. All their experiences were in books, waiting for anyone to learn and apply them. Chang Baji did not go to Boss Hu's place again. He had arranged the trifle for the next day and divided them into two groups. One group would stay in Amphion to keep an eye on Yin Chaozong, and the other group would be led by him to protect Qin Sheng. Chang Baji heard some rumors that something big had happened in the old monk's place, but he did not look into it. He did not expect that it would have anything to do with Qin Sheng. After all, he did not know the relationship between Yin Chaozong and Chu Huanqi. On the third day, the appointed time finally came. Chang Baji arrived at the Golden Coast at about 8 o'clock. Qin Sheng had been waiting for Yin Chaozong's call at home. At 11 o'clock, Qin Sheng and Chang Baji received a call at the same time. Yin Chaozong called Qin Sheng and told him that his people had arrived at the gate of the Golden Coast, and that Qin Sheng should get ready to go. The call Chang Baji received was from Hao Lei, who stayed in Amphion and said that Yin Chaozong had set off. Lin Su had gone to work in the morning, so Qin Sheng stayed at home alone. After hanging up the phone, Qin Sheng went out. After he went downstairs, Chang Baji, Gu Qingyang, Gu Xiaobo, and the others came to greet him. Chang Baji said in a low voice, "Yin Chaozong has set off." Qin Sheng said thoughtfully, "Yes, he called me." After Qin Sheng and the others went out, they saw two black Audi A6L parked at the gate of the community. 5 or 6 men in black suits got out of the cars. When they saw Qin Sheng, they said politely, "Mr. Qin, Master Yin asked us to pick you up. Please get in the car." Gu Xiaobo said worriedly, "Brother Qin." Qin Sheng waved his hand and said, "You can follow behind." After that, Qin Sheng got in the car first. Chang Baji, Gu Qingyang, Gu Xiaobo, and the others took 2 cars and followed him closely. Both sides were safe. At this time, at the traffic light, the 2 Audi A6L suddenly sped up and ran through the red light. Chang Baji felt that something was wrong and said without hesitation, "Go after them." Chapter 304. Since you are here, take it well. Yin Chaozong sent 2 Audi A6L cars to pick Qin Sheng up. Qin Sheng sat in the car behind, with a driver and a bodyguard in front. He was alone in the back seat. The 2 cars sped up at the same time, ran the red light, and drove away. Qin Sheng's face changed slightly, but he did not panic. Firstly, he believed in his judgment. Secondly, he believed in the abilities of Chang Baji and the others. Thirdly, he did not believe that Yin Chaozong could do anything to him in broad daylight. "Mr. Qin, don't worry. We were just in a hurry," the bodyguard in the front seat said casually. He also wanted Qin Sheng to rest assured that everything was going according to plan. Qin Sheng said in a low voice, "Okay." Behind them, Chang Baji, Gu Qingyang, and Gu Xiaobo also ran the red light and followed the Audi in front. Gu Qingyang, who was driving, frowned and said, "Senior uncle, what's going on? Follow closely. Don't get lost." Chang Baji did not talk nonsense. He simply told them directly. They only had one task, which was to protect Qin Sheng. Before Chang Baji finished his words, Gu Xiaobo, who was in the car behind, called to ask. He was also a little confused about why they suddenly started a chase. Chang Baji also told him the same thing. Then Chang Baji called Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng said casually, "It's okay. You just follow." The place Yin Chaozong had booked was quiet CC Yuerong Manor. However, the 2 Audi cars did not go there. Instead, they went out of the city. Soon, they arrived at the Hangzhou Ring Expressway. Without hesitation, they got on the expressway through ETC. Chang Baji and the others also got on the expressway. Qin Sheng, Chang Baji, and the others became more and more confused. They did not know what was going on. Was the place they were going to meet in? After getting on the Ring Expressway, the 2 Audi cars slowed down and drove at a moderate speed. Qin Sheng did not ask where they were going. Anyway, they would take him to the destination eventually. At this time, Yin Chaozong had arrived at CC Yuerong Manor. Chu Huanxi, Yuan Ku, and the others were also there. At the same time, Qian Buping also came to watch the fun. As Yuan Ku's brother-in-law, Yuan Ku told Qian Buping what was going on. Of course, Qian Buping would not miss such fun. After all, it was Qin Sheng who had made him leave Poly International in a sorry state and lose his previous position. Though he was doing well in Yuan Ku's company, he was still not as good as before. When Yin Chaozong arrived at Yuerong Manor in CC, Hao Lei, who followed him closely, immediately called Chang Baji. Chang Baji frowned and said, "Yuerong Manor in CC?" Yin Chaozong's destination was CC Yuerong Manor. At this moment, they were on the highway around the city. This seemed a little unreasonable. "You guys stay in Yuerong Manor and act according to the situation," Chang Baji ordered. After that, Chang Baji sent the news to Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng did not say anything after reading it. In the banquet hall of Yuerong Manor in CC, many guests had already arrived. It was extremely lively. Chu Huanxi had specially hired a public relations company to hold this event. There were 20 banquet tables in the banquet hall, which showed how many guests had been invited today. Chu Huanqi and Yin Chaozong stood at the door and started to welcome the guests they had invited. When Luo Changgong and Yang Deng walked in, they were warmly welcomed by Chu Huanqi, Yuan Ku, and the others. After exchanging some pleasantries, Luo Changgong and Yang Deng were led to their seats by the beautiful receptionist, which was a table near the front. After sitting down, Yang Deng was confused and asked, "Why are they together? Do you know that man?" Luo Changgong asked curiously. He did not know him. Yang Deng explained slowly. He is the grandson of old Master Yin of the Yin family in Shanghai. He is working for the Yin family now. At the same time, he was Qin Sheng's rival in love in Shanghai. Qin Sheng left Shanghai because of him. So I'm confused why he is here. He looks like the host today. After hearing that, Luo Changgong could not help but frown and said, "Oh, there is such a relationship. I thought he is a newcomer from the old monk's side. The Yin family in Shanghai and the Lin family in Ningbo are quite well matched. Is there any cooperation between the Yin family in Shanghai and the old monk? If the old monk is connected with the Yin family in Shanghai, he will be more powerful than us in the Yangtze River Delta." Yang Deng hesitated for a while and said, "I don't know. The Yin family in Shanghai and the old monk don't have any relationship. The Yin family is indeed influential in Shanghai, but they're not on the same path as the old monk. The old monk is interested in the Yin family, but the Yin family has no cooperation value with them. Today's show is really interesting. Don't think so much. It has nothing to do with us. Anyway, we will know the result later," Luo Changgong said carelessly. After all, it had nothing to do with them. Even if the Yin family cooperated with the old monk, they could not stop it. Yang Deng nodded and said no more. At this time, many acquaintances had come over to greet them. They could only deal with them. At this moment, Qin Sheng and his companions were still walking on the highway around the city. They did not know that Yin Chaozong had prepared such a big scene for him. At that time, he would be famous in Jiangsu and Zhejiang. When it was almost 12 o'clock, Yin Chaozong and Chu Huanqi felt that almost all the guests had arrived. Those who did not come had been informed in advance. So they looked at each other, and Chu Huanqi immediately arranged for the main characters to come in. They sent someone to pick up Qin Sheng in order to delay him so that all the guests would arrive. On the highway around the city, after receiving the news, two artists immediately chose to speed up to the highway entrance nearest to CC Uero Manor. After that, they went straight to CC Uero Manor. Qin Sheng had an idea about the direction of Hangzhou. Seeing the name of the highway entrance, he knew that after they got off the highway, they would also go to CC Uero Manor. It turned out that it was just a smoke bomb. Chang Baji and his companions, who were behind them, also understood and finally felt relieved. More than 10 minutes later, they arrived at CC Uero Manor. The parking lot was full of all kinds of luxury cars. Qin Sheng and his companions, who had not gotten off the cars, thought that there would be some important activities in Uero Manor today. After all, it was a high-end hotel in Hangzhou, so it was normal for there to be some important activities. Qin Sheng got off the car first. Chang Baji, Gu Qingyang, and Gu Xiaobo, who were behind him, instantly came up to him. Today, they had been fooled. Gu Xiaobo, who had a bad temper, exploded in an instant. After getting off the car, he rushed over and cursed, F*CKU. How dare you fool us? Do you want to die? The other side did not back down either. Both sides immediately confronted each other. Chang Baji said unhappily, Xiaobo, step back. Gu Qingyang also pulled Gu Xiaobo. Gu Xiaobo stepped back resentfully. The bodyguard who was responsible for picking up Qin Sheng chuckled and said, "Mr. Qin, I'm sorry to have made you suffer. This way, please." Qin Sheng was still calm. He smiled gently and followed the group of people sent by Yin Chaozong into Uero Manor. Chang Baji and his companions stayed by his side to protect him. At this time, Hao Lei, Tang Shi, and the others also came out and joined Qin Sheng, Chang Baji, and the others. Hao Lei walked to Chang Baji in a hurry and said, "Lao Chang, something seems wrong." Chang Baji was surprised and asked, "What's wrong?" Hao Lei had found something wrong a long time ago. However, he did not think of it at first. Later, he felt that something was wrong, so he sent someone to investigate. It was not until he managed to sneak into the banquet hall that he found that Chu Huanxi and Yin Chaozong were greeting the guests at the entrance of the banquet hall. They were together with the famous guests in Hangzhou City today, and they were the protagonists. If Hao Lei still did not understand what was going on, there must be something wrong with his IQ. It must be a trap set by Yin Chaozong for Qin Sheng. At the beginning, when Yin Chaozong told him about this, Hao Lei was a little shocked. It did not occur to him that Yin Chaozong had come to Hangzhou, so Qin Sheng was in danger. He wanted to ask Qin Sheng, but was stopped by Yin Chaozong, who said that the two of them had reached a settlement. Today was a formal settlement, and they would talk about it later. Hao Lei gave up. He also felt that it was not a good time. After hearing Hao Lei's story, Chang Baji's expression changed instantly. He seemed to have guessed something. Would Qin Sheng still insist? If he really insisted, he would not be able to stay in Hangzhou anymore. Chang Baji immediately stopped Qin Sheng and said, "Something unexpected happened." Qin Sheng frowned and asked, "What happened?" Chang Baji told the whole thing in the most concise words. After Qin Sheng heard it, he looked a little embarrassed, and his eyes were a little sinister. It did not occur to him that Yin Chaozong would play such a trick. "Do you still want to go in now?" Chang Baji kindly reminded him. Actually, his meaning was already very obvious. He did not recommend Qin Sheng to go in again. Qin Sheng began to think carefully. It only took him a few seconds to make a decision. He was very grateful to Yin Chaozong for giving him such an opportunity, which allowed him to overturn the previous decision he had made. He was suddenly enlightened, as if he had finally climbed over the mountain. In front of him was a boundless plain, and there was no sense of oppression anymore. Qin Sheng laughed out loud and said, "Go, why not? Since we are here, let's take things as they come. Young Master Yin has prepared a big show. If I, the main character, don't go in, how can I play this show? We have to give face to young Master Yin." When he said this, Qin Sheng did not care about the presence of Yin Chaozong's helpers at all. After hearing this, Chang Baji was completely relieved. Originally, he was worried about the situation today. Now it seemed that Qin Sheng had put down everything and made the wisest choice. This was the Qin Sheng he knew. So he said happily, "Okay, then let's go." Qin Sheng did not have any burden at all, and he was in a very good mood. Because Yin Chaozong had cut off all his escape routes, what else did he need to be afraid of? After the small episode, the direction of the situation was completely reversed. Then the crowd followed Qin Sheng and walked into CC Yuerong Manor in a mighty manner. In the hotel of CC Yuerong Manor, Chu Huanxi and Yin Chaozong were waiting for Qin Sheng's arrival. Logically speaking, they should have come in by now. Why hadn't they received the notice? They could not help but wonder. Do you think Qin Sheng will get cold feet? Yin Chaozong sneered and said, "I don't care whether he comes or not. Anyway, even if he kowtows to me and admits his mistake, I will not let him go." This was the real Yin Chaozong. Chapter 305. Chapter 305, Fight Again. The ancestors said that there were 4 major enemies in life: killing one's father, stealing one's wife, killing one's son, and humiliation under one's crotch. Yin Chaozong and Qin Sheng hated each other for stealing his wife. After all, at that time, Yin Chaozong and Lin Su were about to get engaged. Everyone knew that they were childhood sweethearts. Most people also treated Lin Su as Yin Chaozong's fiancée. However, Qin Sheng, who had appeared out of nowhere, had gotten the beauty. With such a great hatred, how could Yin Chaozong let Qin Sheng off easily? Therefore, today, he wanted to wash away the grievances he had suffered at that time by humiliating Qin Sheng. However, even if Qin Sheng really did that, he would not let Qin Sheng go, because the grudge between him and Qin Sheng was already irreconcilable. He had almost killed Qin Sheng, and now he humiliated Qin Sheng. In addition, according to Qin Sheng's character, one day, when he was powerful enough, he would definitely take revenge without hesitation. Weeds would grow again if the roots were not removed. Being merciful to the enemy was being cruel to oneself. Yin Chaozong, who had been brought up by old Master Yin since he was a child, definitely had the demeanor of old Master Yin when it came to doing things. He must be cruel and merciless to the enemy. Therefore, he would not be merciful to Qin Sheng. Hearing this, Chu Huanqi laughed happily. He never thought that Qin Sheng would have such a strong opponent. In the future, he did not need to do anything, because Yin Chaozong could kill Qin Sheng. He could only watch the fun. Just when they were talking happily and people were still guessing what Yin Chaozong and Chu Huanqi were going to do today, Feng, he whispered to Chu Huanqi and Yin Chaozong, "He's here." At this moment, Qin Sheng, Chang Baji, and the others were already standing outside the banquet hall. Qin Sheng and Chang Baji also guessed what Yin Chaozong was going to do. "Let's start," Yin Chaozong told Feng He. Feng He immediately gestured to the staff of the public relations company, and the invited host slowly came on the stage. He said in a slightly joking tone, "Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm the host of today's event, Cieli. You are all VIPs invited by Mr. Chu Huanqi and Mr. Yin Chaozong. I guess you are still guessing what the event is today, so I won't be long-winded with you. Please look at the big screen." As soon as the host's voice died away, a few words appeared on the big screen. Ceremony of Mr. Qin Sheng and Mr. Yin Chaozong. At the same time, there were pictures of Qin Sheng and Yin Chaozong on the left and right. The audience was in an uproar. Those who knew Qin Sheng and Yin Chaozong were all shocked, especially Luo Changgong, Yang Ding, Duge Qingning, Boss Hu, and Lin Changhe. At this moment, they looked at each other. It did not occur to them that such a scene would happen today. For a moment, they did not know what to say. Those who did not know Qin Sheng and Yin Chaozong were more or less dissatisfied. They had mobilized so many people to invite so many big shots. They had thought that they were going to do something big, but it turned out to be a farce. However, since he was already here, he could only give face to Chu Huanqi and Yin Chaozong. He could not leave at this time. Lin Changhe was the first one who was shocked. He was the special guest today, and he was sitting in the middle of the front row. He did not know what was going on, but now he finally knew the truth. No wonder Qin Sheng did not want to tell him what they had talked about that day. No matter how Yin Chaozong asked, he would not tell him. Yin Chaozong also kept him guessing, saying that he would find out when the time came. Today, he finally knew that the two of them had actually reached such a reconciliation. Lin Changhe could not help thinking that Yin Chaozong was really cruel. However, what surprised him more was that Qin Sheng actually agreed. How brave he was! However, after such a big scene today, the thing between Qin Sheng and Yin Chaozong would definitely be known by everyone. Would the Lin family still accept such a son-in-law? The answer was obviously no. Lin Changhe sighed helplessly. This was obviously unfair to Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng had suffered such a great injustice, but he could not get what he deserved. Yin Chaozong was a little cruel. However, this was the reality. On the other side, Yang Ding looked very embarrassed. After all, Qin Sheng was his good friend. Now that Chu Huanqi and Yin Chaozong humiliated Qin Sheng in such a way, how could he bear it? Luo Changgong hurried to stop him. "Don't be impulsive. Let's figure out what is going on." "Brother Luo, do you still need to ask?" Chu Huanqi and Yin Chaozong are taking advantage of their power to bully others, Yang Ding said indignantly. Obviously, the power of the old monk and the Yin family could not be shaken by Qin Sheng. Chowda was Qin Sheng's biggest support, and Chowda was not at the same level as these two families at all. Luo Changgong did not think too much. He just asked, "At this time, can you stand out? Do you want to be the target of public criticism? Besides, how could Qin Sheng not know such a big scene? If Qin Sheng had not agreed, would they have made such a big scene?" Hearing Luo Changgong's words, Yang Ding instantly calmed down. He had a lot of questions. Did Qin Sheng really bow to the Yin family? The Yin family did have an extraordinary background, but did he have to kowtow and admit his mistake? This was not Qin Sheng's temperament. Compared with Yang Ding's doubt, Luo Changgong thought he had made a judgment. He believed that Qin Sheng definitely knew about this and had agreed. At this moment, he was completely disappointed in Qin Sheng. If Qin Sheng kowtowed and admitted his mistake to Yin Chaozong in front of everyone today, he would not be able to stay in the big circle in Zhejiang in the future. Nobody would look up to him. Du Qingning and Bosu also had the same idea. They had appreciated Qin Sheng before, but they did not expect that Qin Sheng would do such a thing. It was really disappointing. The host shouted enthusiastically. Then, let's welcome today's main character, Mr. Yin Chaozong, to the stage. Yin Chaozong stood up to show his respect in the applause of the audience. He smiled and walked slowly to the stage. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to attend this ceremony today. I also hope that you can witness this moment. Some of you here know Mr. Qin Sheng, while some don't. Then I will tell you about the story between me and Mr. Qin Sheng. Mr. Qin Sheng and I had some grudges when we were in Shanghai. Later, Mr. Qin Sheng disappeared because of this, and I did not take it seriously. Later, I happened to know that Mr. Qin Sheng was in Hangzhou, so I came here to have a look. I did not expect that Mr. Qin Sheng would take the initiative to apologize to me and ask for my forgiveness. In order to show his sincerity, he chose such a ceremony, which moved me very much. Taking over the microphone from the host, Yin Chaozong started his performance. He was really talking nonsense with a serious face. If he did not give an Oscar Best Actor award, he would feel sorry for his face today. All the people here were vixens with high IQ and EQ. Since Yin Chaozong had said so, how could they not understand? It was obviously a naked humiliation for Chu Huanxi and Yin Chaozong to make such a big scene. Moreover, this Mr. Qin Sheng was definitely not a kind person. Otherwise, they would not have done this. Now, everyone was curious about who this Mr. Qin, who could put up with what ordinary people could not, was. How courageous and how capable he was. He actually provoked Chu Huanxi and Yin Chaozong, the two great Buddhas. How unlucky he was. Yuan Ku and Qian Buping, who had grudges with Qin Sheng, smiled playfully. They did not expect that Qin Sheng would also have this day. However, Yuan Ku still had some doubts. Qin Sheng seemed to have a good relationship with Xue Qingyan, and he also knew people like Master Lu. Why did he have to kowtow and apologize? Yin Chaozong continued. Since Mr. Qin Sheng was so sincere, and I am not a stingy person, I agreed. Therefore, today's ceremony was held. I will not talk nonsense. It is time to invite Mr. Qin Sheng to show up. After all, he has been waiting outside for a long time. This is not the way to treat a guest. I can't let him down. After Yin Chaozong finished his words, everyone below the stage could not help but laugh. They could only say that this city was really good at playing. Only Yang Dang was very angry. He had an impulse to flip the table. Fortunately, Luo Changgong was there to suppress him. Otherwise, if Yang Dang dared to make trouble, he would be in big trouble. After Yin Chaozong finished his words, the host took over the microphone and said, "It is better to squash enmity than to keep it alive. Mr. Yin is really generous. Then let us welcome the other main character today, Mr. Qin Sheng." Outside, Qin Sheng, Chong Baji, and the rest had heard what Yin Chaozong had said clearly. Everyone was extremely angry. If it were not for Qin Sheng and Chong Baji holding them back, they would have already rushed in and wrecked the place. Chong Baji snorted and said, "Young Master Yin, you are really good." Gu Qingyang gnashed his teeth and said, "Senior uncle, give me a chance. I will definitely kill him." Nonsense. Chong Baji refused directly. At this time, the door of the banquet hall was slowly pushed open by the bodyguards at the door. Everyone looked at Qin Sheng and the others standing at the door. Of course, they wanted to know who Mr. Qin Sheng was. At present, Gu Xiaobo did not know what was going on. He thought that Qin Sheng was really going to apologize. He pulled Qin Sheng subconsciously and said, "Brother Qin, don't." A 7-foot man apologized to an opponent in front of so many people. Not everyone could stand it. If Gu Xiaobo knew that Qin Sheng was going to kowtow to apologize, he would feel ashamed to go in. Qin Sheng shook his head and said nothing. Hao Lei heard what Yin Chaozong had said just now. He was so angry that he clenched his fists tightly. He even wanted to kill Yin Chaozong. Although he knew what Qin Sheng was going to do, who could stand being humiliated like this? After all, Qin Sheng was his best brother. "Let's go," Qin Sheng said with a smile. He stared at Yin Chaozong, who was directly opposite him. He took the first step calmly and walked into the banquet hall, slowly under everyone's gaze. Since you, Yin Chaozong, want to break my hard bones, trample me into the dust, and humiliate me unscrupulously, I, Qin Sheng, don't need to care about who you are. Let's fight again. Even if I lose, I'll make you pay the price. Yin Chaozong said. Far away in the Sihuan of the Qin family in Beijing, Qin Chang'an was watching the live broadcast of this farce on the TV in the study. Gongsun had already received the news and arranged the corresponding measures. Qin Chang'an's face was a little pale. This young man named Yin Chaozong was really ruthless. However, he humiliated the descendants of the Qin family unscrupulously. Was he really not afraid? But what made him confused was that his son actually came. Chapter 306. It's completely lively in Qin Chang'an's eyes. The men of the Qin family could admit defeat and hide if they couldn't win. But they could never admit defeat in such a humiliating way. This was absolutely unacceptable. The ancestors of the Qin family could not afford to lose face. So he told Gongsun that day that Qin Sheng could fight with Yin Chaozong in any way, but he could not admit defeat easily. A lot of people would definitely say that Qin Chang'an was an invisible big shot who was famous in Sijio City, while Qin Sheng was currently just a small fry who could be pinched to death by anyone. Their statuses could not be compared at all. Qin Sheng was in such a difficult situation. How could he fight against Yin Chaozong? If Qin Chang'an only thought like this, he would not be Qin Chang'an. He would probably be a dog butcher on the street. What he wanted was Qin Sheng's attitude, a spirit that dared to fight his way out no matter what kind of desperate situation and pressure he was under. Yin Chaozong wanted Qin Sheng to kowtow and admit his mistake, which was equivalent to breaking Qin Sheng's legs and putting him in a dilemma. If he kowtowed and admitted his mistake, he would lose face in front of all the big shots in Jia province and become a clown who would be laughed at by everyone. If he didn't kowtow and admitted his mistake, he would give him a chance. If he didn't take it, then don't blame me for targeting him. Qin Chang'an was not sure if Qin Sheng knew about the drama that Yin Chaozong had prepared for him today. But since Qin Sheng was here, there would be a result eventually. If Qin Sheng really dared to kneel, he would definitely be extremely disappointed, because there had never been such a man in the Qin family, whether it was the old master, him, or that person. No one had ever done such a thing. He did not want to see this scene, because the Qin family could not afford to lose face like this. Qin Sheng was destined to take over. So if Qin Sheng really dared to do this, he would definitely stop him. After all, Gongsun had already arranged a countermeasure. But he did not want them to recognize each other in this way. In the banquet hall of Cici Yurong Manor, Qin Sheng did not know that in Sijio City, thousands of miles away, there was someone who cared about this drama more than anyone else present. Under everyone's gaze, Qin Sheng walked towards Yin Chaozong with a smile without flinching. He just stared at Yin Chaozong and did not pay attention to those acquaintances present, because this was a competition between him and Yin Chaozong. At least at this moment, it had nothing to do with them. Luo Changgong sighed and said, "He really came. Alas, what a pity." If Qin Sheng had not shown up, he might have thought that this was just a farce between Yin Chaozong and Chu Huanqi. However, since Qin Sheng really came, Luo Changgong was already skeptical. Yang Deng looked Qin Sheng up and down, feeling that Qin Sheng was not here to kowtow and admit his mistake. He muttered to himself, "Unless he really kowtows and admits his mistake, I will never believe that he is such a man." Qin Sheng was standing there. Yang S. Sheng. 6 Sai Sheng Ti. I said Yang. He Yang. It Dong. Sheng. The audience below the stage booed, and some people even cursed in their hearts. What a F*** king retard. Only those who did not like Qin Sheng applauded sparsely. Welcome? Welcome Qin Sheng to kowtow and admit his mistake? Isn't this a naked humiliation? Which host would be so stupid? Yin Chaozong stared at the host. The host left quickly. This would be a stain on his hosting career. But he cannot be blamed. After all, it was the first time for him to see such a weird activity. You are finally here. I thought you dare not come. Yin Chaozong smiled at Qin Sheng, who was already in front of him. Qin Sheng laughed and said, Young Master Yin, you prepared such a grand ceremony. How could I not come? Yin Chaozong subconsciously thought that Qin Sheng was really a coward. He could not help but sneer in his heart. Qin Sheng is really a coward. The man Lin Su chose is just SOSO. Yin Chaozong looked at Qin Sheng disdainfully and said, Since you are here, let's start the ceremony. After all, we have been waiting for so long. At this time, everyone was waiting for Qin Sheng's answer. Some people already felt sorry for him. Lin Chang'e also felt sorry for him. Gu Xiaobo, Gu Qingyang, and Tang Xu were behind him. Qin Sheng suddenly said with a bright smile, I don't know what you mean. What ceremony? Qin Sheng raised his head and looked at the big screen. The words were very dazzling, but the two pictures were not so good. Why is Yin Chaozong so handsome? He's like the hero in the Love Idol TV series. Why am I so ugly? I'm like a passerby who will be killed the moment I show up. Oh, Mr. Qin Sheng kowtows and apologizes to Yin Chaozong. Young Master Yin, what do you mean? When did I kowtow and apologize to you? And why should I kowtow and apologize to you? You have to give me an explanation. Otherwise, I will ask the lawyer to hold you responsible, Qin Sheng said in a frivolous tone. Hearing this, the audience was in an uproar again. Yin Chaozong and Chu Huanqi made such a big scene, but they were slapped in the face. The other hero directly denied it. It turned out to be a farce. It seemed that the show could not continue. No, it should be that the show was getting more and more exciting. Yang Deng laughed and said, I knew it. Luo Changgong was confused and said, What the hell is going on? Duge Qingning and Boss Hu, who knew Qin Sheng, frowned slightly. Yin Chaozong and Chu Huanqi made such a big scene. Didn't Qin Sheng know? Why did he come if he didn't know? How could he deny it? What did he mean? Anyway, they would not be disappointed in Qin Sheng anymore. As for Lin Changhe, he sighed and said, It's over, because he knew that the knot between Qin Sheng and Yin Chaozong would not be solved today, and the hatred would become deeper and deeper. Chu Huanqi, who was the closest to them, heard it the most clearly. At this moment, he was cursing in his heart. Damn it, I made such a big scene to watch a great play, but now the main character refused to sing, which made me work for nothing. What will others think of me? Yin Chaozong said coldly. I didn't hear it wrong, did I? Qin Sheng laughed and said, Young Master Yin, if there is something wrong with your ears, you can go to the hospital. After all, medical treatment is very advanced now. It is not an incurable disease. Yin Chaozong stared at Qin Sheng and asked, Are you sure you want to do this? He was a little angry. For him, it was okay if Qin Sheng came or not. But Qin Sheng came and refused, which was a slap in his face and made him lose face in front of everyone again. He could not allow this. Qin Sheng put away his frivolous smile and said in a deep voice, Young Master Yin, you made such a big scene. What else can I do? Do I really have to kowtow to you and apologize? You're looking down on me too much. Yin Chaozong asked word by word, Do you know what your refusal means? Qin Sheng replied firmly, I know, but don't worry. Even if young Master Yin wants to kill me, I, Qin Sheng, will definitely not straighten my neck for you. No matter what young Master Yin wants to do, I, Qin Sheng, will take it. Moreover, this is not the first time. Yin Chaozong gritted his teeth and said helplessly, Good, good. I suddenly like you a little. This was the reason why he wanted to enter this door. Yin Chaozong had set up a stage for him to sing. He definitely had to sing, but it was definitely not what Yin Chaozong wanted. Yin Chaozong's eyes lit up. Qin Sheng said politely, If young Master Yin doesn't have anything else to say, then I'll take my leave. I hope young Master Yin has a good time. After saying that, he turned around and was about to leave. Except for Chang Baji and Hao Lei, the others who followed him and were very worried. Now they finally felt relieved. This was the brother Qin they knew. No matter how good Yin Chaozong's temper was, it was impossible for him to let Qin Sheng go like this. He did not care about the scene and asked in a deep voice, Who do you think you are? What do you think this place is? Qin Sheng turned around slowly and replied without fear, It seems that you don't want me to go. What if I insist? Chu Huanqi, who was Yin Chaozong's ally, could not stand it anymore. Chu Huanqi, who was Yin Chaozong's ally, could not stand it anymore. If Yin Chaozong was disgraced today, he would also be disgraced. After all, he was the host of this event. He said angrily, "Damn it. You come and go as you please. Do you think this is your home? I don't believe that you are so awesome. I have never seen a young man as awesome as you in Hangzhou City." Yin Chaozong and Chu Huanqi both said that they would not allow Qin Sheng to swagger away proudly. If the subordinates below still did not understand, they could go home and sleep. Therefore, as soon as they said that, the subordinates below stopped Qin Sheng directly and surrounded Qin Sheng, Chong Baji, and the others in an instant. Qin Sheng already had no way out. Since they had forced him into a dead end, he would let them know that he, Qin Sheng, was not someone to be trifled with. All these years, he had been through the wind and rain. I will not stay in Hangzhou anymore, but I will definitely let you remember my name. My name is Qin Sheng, not Qin Wushuang. Do you think you can stop me? Qin Sheng snorted coldly. He did not take Chu Huanqi and Yin Chaozong's subordinates seriously. Lin Changhe realized that the situation was developing in the direction that he did not want to see the most. If Qin Sheng and Yin Chaozong really fell out, it meant that Qin Sheng had drawn a clear line between the Lin family and the Lin family. Regarding the issue of which side to take, the Lin family would definitely not choose Qin Sheng, let alone offend the Yin family for Qin Sheng, although he appreciated Qin Sheng very much. Qin Sheng don't. Lin Changhe was afraid that Qin Sheng would make a wrong choice, so he ran over and shouted. At this time, Qin Sheng did not care about the Lin family. If he really kowtowed to Yin Chaozong and was accepted by the Lin family, it would be a F*** miracle. Not only he would not be able to raise his head in the future, but also Lin Su would never be able to raise her head in the future. He also understood that without absolute strength, no one would take you seriously. So Qin Sheng sighed to Lin Changhe and said, "Second uncle, I'm sorry to let the Lin family down. Let's go." Qin Sheng turned around and shouted in a domineering manner. Feng He and the others were still standing in front of them and did not intend to let them go at all. However, since Qin Sheng had given his order, Chong Baji, Hao Lei, Gu Qingyang, Gu Xiaobo, and Tang Shi were all holding their breaths. Hearing Qin Sheng's words, Chong Baji took the lead and went straight to Feng He. "Don't you want to challenge me? Today, I will give you another chance." Gu Qingyang and Gu Xiaobo followed him closely, as if they had taken gunpowder. Without hesitation, they rushed to the idiots who stood in their way, wanting to vent their anger without scruples. Chapter 307. No one was disappointed. Chapter 307. Nobody was disappointed. No one had expected that the originally peaceful banquet hall would suddenly turn into a mess. Yin Chaozong, Chu Huanqi, and the onlookers, such as Luo Changgong, Bosu, Dugu Qingning, Lin Changhe, and Yang Deng, did not expect that Qin Sheng dared to attack them. He was facing Yin Chaozong and Chu Huanqi, which meant that he did not want to live anymore. Qin Sheng had already prepared for the worst, because no matter what he did, he would not be able to stay in Hangzhou anymore. The Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and Shanghai regions were one. The Yin family's power and influence were too great. If he wanted to develop here, it would be impossible if he did not get rid of Yin Chaozong. Therefore, since you forced me to do this, I could only poke a hole in the sky. Since you want to watch the show, I will let you all be the main characters. Chong Baji, who took the lead, went straight to Feng He. Today, Chong Baji did not intend to hide his strength at all. He attacked with lightning speed, which was enough to make everyone stunned. His hand went straight to Feng He's neck. Feng He turned pale with fright. He did not expect that Qin Sheng and the others dared to attack him here. When he came to himself, Chong Baji was already in front of him. He subconsciously grabbed one of his subordinates and put him in front of him. The subordinate was in a hurry and did not know how to deal with it. He could only use his arm to block. With a cracking sound, the sound of bones breaking made him shout in anger. His voice was somewhat hysterical. Feng He finally had a chance to catch his breath and make his move. when Chang Baji directly threw the man away with one hand. The man heavily smashed onto a nearby table. Feng He, who was like a hound, kicked at Chang Baji. Chang Baji had long expected this. After all, he had been through hundreds of battles and had encountered all kinds of opponents. Feng He was just a small potato that he was not interested in. If Qin Sheng had not stopped him back then, he would have killed Feng He in western Sichuan long ago. Chang Baji curled up the corner of his mouth and fought with Feng He with the same movement, one on the left and the other on the right. It depended on who was faster and whose reaction was better. Obviously, this time, Chang Baji still won. Both of their targets were the other's head. In the blink of an eye, Chang Baji had calculated and judged Feng He's strength, angle, and speed. He abruptly dodged at the critical point, and Feng He's foot almost brushed past the tip of Chang Baji's nose. However, Feng He didn't have Chang Baji's strength. He couldn't dodge at all. Chang Baji's kick landed on his shoulder and sent him flying backward, crashing into the two men behind him. On the other side, Gu Qingyang and Gu Xiaobo had already started to break out of the encirclement. Hao Lei and Tang, she did not want to be left behind. They were the core subordinates that Qin Sheng had brought here today. Except for Tang Shi, whose strength might be inferior, the others were not easy to deal with. Neither Yin Chaozong nor Chu Huanxi had expected such a situation, so they were not prepared for it. Except for 2 or 3 trusted subordinates. Most of them were ordinary subordinates. None of them could be compared to Chang Baji. At this moment, the whole banquet hall was in a mess. The stage was completely noisy. The two sides were fighting fiercely. The guests were afraid that the fire at the city gate would affect them, so they hurried to stand up and hide at the door of the banquet hall. Some people didn't want to leave. They stood not far away and watched the scene. After all, it was rare to see such a scene. Someone actually dared to challenge Yin Chaozong and Chu Huanxi, 2 rich playboys. How brave he was! Some older people were more disgusted with this kind of scene. They were a little uncomfortable with the arrangement made by Chu Huanxi and Yin Chaozong today. At this moment, they took the opportunity to leave, not wanting to be involved in such a storm. Chu Huanxi, who was under the stage, saw the fight on the stage. He shouted to Yuan Ku and the others, "What are you looking at? Go and fight." Qian Buping was eager to hear Chu Huanxi's order. He directly rushed up with his subordinates and took a chair. Of course, his target was Qin Sheng. He had to take revenge. Yuan Ku hesitated for a while, and then he ordered his subordinates to help. The other tycoons on the old monk side also gave orders. In an instant, a group of people rushed to the stage. Yin Chaozong and Chu Huanxi were protected at the back. Of course, Chang Baji and the others did not have the energy to deal with them. They surrounded Qin Sheng in the middle and dealt with the endless opponents. Anyway, they could not let Qin Sheng get hurt. Qin Sheng stood in the middle and looked at everyone coldly. He had no helpers. He only had Chang Baji and Hao Lei, who were his trusted subordinates. Being besieged by so many people, he was destined to be miserable. Hangzhou let him down. On the other side, as Qin Sheng's good friend, Yang Deng was a little excited. This was the Qin Sheng he knew. He would not lower his head to anyone and would not admit defeat to anyone. He dared to challenge any opponent who bullied him. He had the momentum of fighting against millions of people. However, it was obvious that Qin Sheng could not deal with so many people besieging him. He regarded Qin Sheng as a friend. As a friend, of course, he could not stand by and do nothing. Otherwise, he would be too ashamed to see Qin Sheng in the future. Consequently, Yang Deng was ready to rush up to help without hesitation. Luo Changgong, who was beside him, had been staring at Yang Deng for a long time. Today's scene was destined to become the topic of discussion for most people in Hangzhou City. He really did not expect that Qin Sheng would have the courage to do this. He wondered whether Qin Sheng was reckless or had someone to rely on. Anyway, Yang Deng did not get involved. Consequently, Luo Changgong directly pulled Yang Deng and said, "What do you want to do? This is not your business." "Brother Luo, Qin Sheng is my friend. It is not my character to sit and watch when my friend is in trouble," Yang Deng replied straightforwardly. Luo Changgong snorted and said, "You are not you now. You represent the third master. Once you get involved, the third master will also be involved. At that time, he will be the one to clean up your mess." Yang Ding did not give up because of this. He said in a deep voice, "Brother Luo, this is my business. It has nothing to do with my foster father. If I don't do it today, I will always feel guilty. After I finish it, I will apologize to the third master in person. I will not complain if he wants to beat or scold me." After that, Yang Ding did not pay attention to Luo Changgong anymore. He got rid of Luo Changgong's arm and rushed to the stage directly. He was like a fierce tiger going down the mountain to his prey. Luo Changgong was so angry that he shouted, "What the hell is going on? Boss, what should we do?" Luo Changgong's underling asked in a low voice. Yang Ding could do whatever he wanted, but Luo Changgong could not. He could only say helplessly, "Just keep an eye on them." Bossu was not far away. His underling had already come in to protect him. After all, he knew Changbaji and Qin Sheng and had contacts with them. Consequently, his underling said in a low voice, "Boss, do we need to help?" Bossu shook his head. His meaning was self-evident. How could he get involved in this kind of thing? He did appreciate Qin Sheng and respected Changbaji very much. But this was not a personal relationship. Qin Sheng and Changbaji had offended two powerful forces. Could they still stay in Hangzhou in the future? Obviously, it was impossible. Of course, he would not offend the old monk and the Yin family for them. Dugu Qingning had already retreated to the direction of the door. He and Qin Sheng were just acquaintances. Of course, it was impossible for him to help them. However, he appreciated Qin Sheng's courage. In the current society, few young people had such courage. As for Lin Changhe, he was completely helpless. When Qin Sheng took action, it meant that the Lin family had drawn a clear line between Qin Sheng and the Lin family had completely abandoned Qin Sheng. It was even more impossible for him to help Lin Su. The only thing he had to consider now was how to ensure Lin Su's safety. As a last resort, he had to take Lin Su back to Ningbo by force. Of course, he could not stay in Hangzhou any longer. Qin Sheng, who was protected by Changbaji and the others in the middle, did not take any action. He watched everything coldly. He would remember everything that had happened today. Maybe he would never forget it. Chu Huanqi, Yuan Ku, Qin Buping, and the others hit him when he was down. Luo Changgong, Boss Hu, and the Lin family stood on the sidelines. Yang Ding helped him without hesitation. He remembered all of them. He was really disappointed in Hangzhou. At first, Yin Chaozong was a little angry. But now, Yin Chaozong was taking pleasure in Qin Sheng's misfortune. Because of what Qin Sheng had done today, he did not need to do anything at all. He had been completely isolated by the big shots in Hangzhou City. It was obviously impossible for him to develop in Hangzhou City in the future. What could he do with Chowda? As for the so-called Xue family, Qin Sheng only had a good relationship with Xue Qingyan. The other members of the Xue family definitely did not like him. Moreover, with the background of the Xue family, they had to avoid a lot of risks. How could they help Qin Sheng? Qin Sheng watched them coldly. Yin Chaozong and Chu Huanqi looked at Qin Sheng thoughtfully, as if they were looking at a dying patient. For them, Qin Sheng was not a threat at all. After all, this was the famous Cici Yuero Manor in Hangzhou City. It was also the sign of Hangzhou City. The hotel management would certainly not allow such a farce to continue for too long. They had already called the police and gathered all the security guards here. When Yin Chaozong and Chu Huanqi saw the hotel management coming in, they looked at each other and shouted at the same time, "Stop! All of you step back." Hearing this, Yin Chaozong and Chu Huanqi's people immediately stepped back without hesitation. They kept a distance from Qin Sheng's group. The people on Qin Sheng's side did not stop immediately. At this moment, except for Qin Sheng and Changbaji, the others on Qin Sheng's side were more or less injured. Of course, they did not make it easy for their opponents. Many people, including Feng He, were seriously injured. Changbaji and the others did not hide their strength today. Of course, they also had a bottom line. They could not kill people here. If they really killed people here, Qin Sheng would really be doomed. One of the episodes was that Qian Buping had rushed forward aggressively with a chair in his hand. However, Gu Qingyang had kicked him and sent him flying. He had become a joke. The general manager of the hotel was furious. He was a foreign general manager. Everything that happened in front of him shocked him. This was Cici Yuerong Manor. He asked the security guards to separate the two sides quickly. Then, he reprimanded and scolded both sides. After a while, the police arrived. They sent out several police cars and took both sides of the trouble away. The farce ended in this way, but everyone knew that it was just the beginning. In the Sihiyuan of the Qin family in Sizhou City, Qin Chang'an, who had witnessed the whole process, stood up slowly. He suddenly laughed out loud and said, "This is my son." Gongsun smiled and said nothing. Because this time, Qin Sheng did not let Qin Chang'an down. Chapter 308. Chapter 308 just started, begging for monthly votes, begging for support. Qin Chang'an, of course, hoped that the Qin family could continue to inherit the family business that had been built by 3 generations. He didn't want the Qin family to be just a passerby in this era, but to be the leader of this era. This was the long-cherished wish of every big family. However, he only had one son. Even though he had Qin Ran, his daughter was still his daughter. Qin Chang'an, who had a strong sense of tradition, certainly didn't want to hand over the family business to outsiders. Unless this son was really disappointing and completely disappointed him, he might let outsiders take charge of the family business first. He would train his grandson well in his lifetime and then take over the family business. However, this arrangement was very risky. In the face of any interests beyond human nature, many people would take risks out of desperation. There were too many such examples. Qin Chang'an wasn't afraid that others dared to play tricks under his nose while he was still alive. What he was afraid of was that after he died, a useless son naturally couldn't control his relatives, and it was even more impossible for him to pass the family business to his grandson. Therefore, Qin Chang'an had to find another way out. After confirming that Qin Sheng couldn't take over the family business, he had to start preparing for a rainy day. He had to pave the way for things to happen 20 or 30 years later. However, no matter how much he planned, everything would be changed. But this was all he could do, unless this son was capable and wouldn't let him down. Now, Qin Chang'an finally felt relieved because Qin Sheng's performance today could make him feel at ease to hand over the family business. In this kind of environment, Qin Sheng dared to make such a choice and challenge 2 powerful opponents. It meant that Qin Sheng had cut off his own way out and was ready to break down and build up. This was his last test for Qin Sheng. The only thing he was dissatisfied with was that Qin Sheng offended such powerful opponents for a woman. This was something that an ambitious person shouldn't do. But thinking back, didn't he do the same in the past? Wasn't the old master like this in the past? The men of the Qin family always couldn't resist the temptation of beauty. Gongsun, open the wine. I want to drink to my heart's content today. Qin Chang'an laughed and said. Gongsun smiled and said, I'm going to prepare now. But, Master, is young Master safe? Yin Xiaozong and the Chu family definitely won't let you off. Should we make preparations? Qin Chang'an said meaningfully, Gongsun, this is my last test for him. No matter how badly he loses this time, we can't help him. This is also the main reason why I arranged for Qin Ran to go to Europe. You keep an eye on Qin Ran and don't let her act on her own. Once this matter is over, I'll let him return to Sizhou City. When the time comes, I'll let him solve his own problems. Master, I'm afraid that what happened last time will happen again, Gongsun said in a low voice. He still felt that it was not safe. Qin Chang'an laughed happily as he said, Of course I have my considerations. I have already asked Nangong to go to Hangzhou from Hainan. With Zhuangzhou and Nangong by his side, I don't believe that anyone can threaten him. However, unless it is absolutely necessary, they will not take action. Hearing this, Gongsun was finally relieved. Nangong could be considered as Qin Chang'an's adopted daughter. She had been trained and trained since she was young. She could be considered as one of the men of sacrifice of the Qin family. Hangzhou, Cici Yuerong Manor. Qin Sheng and the others were taken away. This time, it was a bit big, and the banquet hall of Your Own Manor was almost smashed. The influence was somewhat bad. At the same time, the police also took away the relevant surveillance video. Yang Ding was also taken away. When Qin Sheng passed by Yang Ding, he smiled bitterly and said, "You shouldn't have gotten involved." Yang Ding knew what Qin Sheng meant and said directly, "You are my friend. I don't have many friends. I'm afraid that I can't watch you being ganged up and beaten by others." "Thank you." Qin Sheng chuckled and said all the words he wanted to say were in these two words. Yang Ding really surprised Qin Sheng. He was really a strange person. At that time, they were opponents. He almost killed Yang Ding and even left a scar on Yang Ding's leg. It did not occur to him that after returning to Hangzhou, they could actually become friends. To be honest, he had always been vigilant about Yang Ding. However, what Yang Ding had done today made Qin Sheng feel that he was gauging the heart of a gentleman with his own mean measure. Yang Ding was a real man. The farce came to an end, but it gradually spread. However, most people were guessing Qin Sheng's identity. After all, not everyone could have this kind of courage. However, the result would definitely make them disappointed. Qin Sheng was far inferior to Chu Huanxi and Yin Chaozong. Qin Sheng and the others were all locked up in the police station. Yin Chaozong, Chu Huanxi, and the others were also taken away. However, the undercurrent outside began to surge. The Chu family and the Yin family got the news one after another and began to put pressure on the Municipal Public Security Bureau. After staying in the police station for only half a day, Chu Huanxi and Yin Chaozong came out. Although they were the main characters, they did not participate in the fight. They could get away with any random reason. Chu Huanxi was called back by the old monk. Yin Chaozong received a call from the Yin family in Shanghai. After coming out, he directly went back to Shanghai. It was said that old Master Yin and his uncle were furious about what he had done. After receiving Luo Changgong's call, Third Master Wu, who had been cultivating himself in Puta Mountain, got angry and said, "Nonsense." Although he was dissatisfied with what Yang Ding had done, Yang Ding was his adopted son after all. He knew Yang Ding's temper more or less. Third Master Wu had no choice but to bail Yang Ding out through his connections. At the same time, he called Luo Changgong and the others, asking them to keep an eye on Yang Ding and not let him get involved in Qin Sheng's affairs. In this way, Yang Ding, who had helped Qin Sheng, was restricted. Although other people involved had come out, Qin Sheng was still enjoying the warmth in the police station. Although it was not the first time for him to be in the police station, who did not want his wife and children to suffer in this place. However, the Chu family and the Yin family had already put pressure on the Municipal Public Security Bureau. The hotel management of Your Own Manor was also very dissatisfied and complained to the municipal leaders. In the end, Qin Sheng became the scapegoat. This was really a cold joke. Although Lin Changhe was helpless about what had happened today and was speechless about Qin Sheng's final choice, he still told Lin Su about it, because Qin Sheng was Lin Su's girlfriend. After Lin Su knew what had happened, she hurried from the company. When she learned the ins and outs of the whole thing, she finally burst into tears. Because Qin Sheng had hidden everything from her, but he had shouldered everything. Because Qin Sheng did not want her to be wronged, but he had suffered so much. Because everyone was bullying Qin Sheng, but no one was willing to help him. "Uncle, please help him." Lin Su did not have many friends in Hangzhou, let alone a friend who needed a lot of power. She could only pin her hope on her second uncle. Lin Changhe rejected her ruthlessly. "Su, it's not that I don't want to help you, but I can't. At this time, if the Lin family gets involved, do you know what it means? I've already called your father, and he said the same thing. We have to consider the interests of the Lin family." Lin Su felt wronged and said, "Uncle, Qin Sheng listened to you and went to Yin Chaozong. You have to help him." "Su, don't blame me. I can't help him." Lin Changhe sighed and hung up the phone. He had to stay calm on this matter. At the same time, he had been very tolerant of Lin Su, because Lin Chongting had told him to take Lin Su back to Ningbo at all costs. But at this time, Lin Su was definitely not willing to leave. Qin Sheng needed someone to run errands for him. so Lin Changhe could only delay it. Lin Su could only pin her hope on 3 people. The first was Chao De. Based on the relationship between Qin Sheng and Chao De, Chao De would definitely run errands for Qin Sheng. The second was Xue Qingyan. Xue Qingyan treated Qin Sheng as her younger brother. Since such a big thing happened, Xue Qingyan would certainly not stand by. The third was Zhuang Zhou. Zhuang Zhou had a certain foundation in Hangzhou. He had a relationship with the Qin family, so of course he would help. Lin Su called Chao De first. Chao De was quite shocked. It did not occur to him that such a big thing would happen today. Qin Sheng's team was wiped out, which had a great impact on him. Chao De told Lin Su not to worry and to come to Jiushi Rose Garden first. He would call them right away. Lin Su took a taxi to Jiushi Rose Garden. At the same time, she did not forget to call Xue Qingyan. The Xue family had a lot of connections in the political circle. Moreover, they started their business in Zhejiang province. Obviously, they were more powerful than Chao De. As soon as the call was put through, Xue Qingyan, who was walking out of the meeting room, heard the sobbing on the phone. She was a little surprised and asked, Lin Su, what happened? In the past, when she was in Shanghai, Lin Su lived a peaceful life. She worked overtime every day, read books at home on weekends, and occasionally went shopping with her best friend to watch movies or go to concerts. Ever since she met Qin Sheng again, her peaceful life was shattered. Over the past year, she and Qin Sheng had been drifting from place to place. However, no matter what Qin Sheng did, no matter what setbacks and hardships they encountered, Lin Su had no regrets. Because Qin Sheng was the man she chose. She had loved Qin Sheng deeply and would never leave him in this life. After Lin Su told Xue Qingyan what had happened today, Xue Qingyan was also shocked. It did not occur to her that so many things had happened when she was not in Hangzhou. Qin Sheng did not tell her anything. Yin Chaozong, Qin Sheng's sworn enemy, had actually chased him to Hangzhou. Xue Qingyan comforted Lin Su and said, Don't worry, I will call them right away. After the meeting, I will rush back to Hangzhou at night. She hung up the phone and immediately contacted her connections in Hangzhou. She could get in touch with Qin Sheng earlier than Chao De. At the same time, she also knew that this thing was far from over. Qin Sheng had made such a big trouble today. How could the Yin and Chu family spare him? She had to go back to Hangzhou to help Qin Sheng. Lin Su also thought of this. She was smarter than most women. Even if Qin Sheng came out, it would not be over. Those people would definitely take revenge on Qin Sheng. Therefore, she called Zhuang Zhou again. However, Zhuang Zhou's cell phone was turned off, which made Lin Su very confused. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.